Chapter 1408. Just as Lin Jun had said, he wasn't a fool. Elder Chen's mind manipulation technique wouldn't work forever. Whenever it touched a sensitive part of his heart, he would be on his guard. Elder Chen was anxious and hoped that Lin Jun would make the final decision as soon as possible. Instead, he revealed a flaw. Lin Jun, who was already on his guard, played along. Elder Chen's expression was ferocious. Since you already saw through it, why did you wait until the last moment to say so? Lin Jun sneered. It's very simple. It's because I lack the experience of a mortal in my life. I've been cultivating all the time, so I can make use of this time to settle my heart. This will be very beneficial for my future cultivation. So you're saying that you're using me? We're the same. If you want to use me, you should be mentally prepared to be used by me. At this point, you should show your true colors, right? As he spoke, Lin Jun suddenly raised his hand. Dimensional combined attack. The lotus spear, which hadn't been seen in 100 years, drew a streak of light in the air and tore through the sky. Elder Chen's figure distorted and collapsed under Lin Jun's attack. The shattered space swallowed everything, including Elder Chen. All of the illusions disappeared. A cold wind blew past Lin Jun's side. This was the wild continent. Lin Jun was still where he had been during his 8th reincarnation. He hadn't moved at all. Looking around, Lin Jun could even see the departing figures of the other sovereigns through his delusion breaker millions of kilometers away. 100 years had passed in the blink of an eye. The sovereigns who had surrounded Lin Jun and survived had already left, but Elder Chen hadn't. Lin Jun exhaled deeply. It's just a thought. He's not here at all. Using a thought to control my thoughts for 100 years, this person is terrifyingly powerful. Lin Jun hadn't expected Elder Chen to not be here. The one who had controlled his thoughts for 100 years was just a thought. This person was undoubtedly a sovereign expert, and not any of the sovereigns here. None of the sovereigns here had such power. Lin Jun used his delusion breaker eye to carefully scan the area. He saw that the radiant hegemon had already left, and it was impossible to catch up to him. This guy is trapped by my innate baleful deathly aura. However, the light elemental energy is a natural counter to deathly aura. Plus, I didn't hit him too hard. He might be able to survive. The person controlling my thoughts is definitely someone else. Although I have some guesses, I don't have any concrete evidence. I can't make an accurate judgment now. Lin Jun sat down in the starry sky. He believed that his 100 years of nirvanic rebirth were just an illusion. He had yet to experience the nirvanic rebirth of his 9th life. He was still patiently waiting for the arrival of his 9th reincarnation. However, at this moment, a voice rang out from the void. Lin Jun, are you ready? You are. Lin Jun completely recalled that after his 8 reincarnations, Elder Chen had used a voice similar to this to confuse him. However, now that he listened carefully, there was a difference. This was the person who had been guiding him all this time. Lin Jun was excited. I'm ready. No matter what, I'll complete the nirvanic rebirth of my final life. However, the person on the other side suddenly laughed. Haha. Lin Jun, oh Lin Jun, truth is falsehood, falsehood is truth. You thought that it was an illusion, but it was also reality. You did well in this life. The nirvanic rebirth of your 9th life will enrich your life experience, and it will be of great help to your final growth. The power of the universe that you nurtured will be nourished by the mortal experience of this life. It's about to mature. Lin Jun hurriedly looked at the chaos lotus in his body. Within the chaos lotus, the vigorous power of the universe was about to burst out at any moment. The flower bud seemed to be unable to contain the chaos airflow within. Strands of aura constantly shot out. It seemed like it could bloom at any moment and give birth to a new universe. The sovereign god crystal within the lotus seed could also break out at any moment. Once the sovereign god crystal was born, Lin Jun would become a sovereign that surpassed the limits of this universe. However, he was still a little bit short. Just a little bit and everything would be completed. I actually completed the nirvanic rebirth of my 9th life? Lin Zhen was pleasantly surprised. However, he was also curious. Why had his new universe not formed after the nirvanic rebirth? Haha, logically speaking, you should have completed it. However, why haven't you broken through? You'll have to ask yourself, Lin Zhen. Others can't answer this question. Is there something you haven't completed? Lin Zhen, goodbye. I'll wait for the day you truly complete it. The voice became more and more distant and disappeared. No matter how Lin Zhen called out, there was no response. Lin Zhen sat there in a daze with his head lowered. What was missing? Why couldn't he complete the final breakthrough? According to the mysterious person's words, he had some true wish that he hadn't fulfilled. As a result, the power of the new universe couldn't be stimulated, and the sovereign god crystal couldn't be born. My heart, Lu Xing muttered to himself. Lin Zhen blinked. He wasn't stupid. His talent had already reached a heaven-defying stage. Naturally, he could understand his own heart. Regrets? I definitely have them. They're also the things I'm most unwilling to accept. I've never truly let go of. That's my family. Lin Zhen suddenly raised his head. 2 brilliant beams of light pierced through the void in his eyes. He looked at the place he wanted to see but didn't dare to. That was Fallen Star Lake. Ever since the divine second angel went to Fallen Star Lake, this place had become Lin Zhen's forbidden zone. He didn't dare to look. He was afraid that he would see many things that he couldn't accept. Although he claimed to have let go of the past and steeled his heart to ignore Fallen Star Lake, Lin Zhen's heart had never truly been at peace. Now, he understood that if a warrior could not look directly into his own heart, he would not be able to create a new world or create a new universe. No matter how things developed, he had to face it and solve it. After seeing the light, Lin Zhen directly looked at Fallen Star Lake. A Ning, Mingyue, Qingxian, little phoenix, little fox, my parents, my children, one of you must survive. Don't leave me alone. If you're really gone, I'll take revenge for you even if I have to turn the world upside down. After preparing himself for the worst, Lin Zhen's gaze finally reached Fallen Star Lake. He thought that he would see a scene of devastation. However, what he saw made Lin Zhen suck in a breath of cold air. Chapter 1409. Lin Zhen had already prepared himself for the worst. If a Dominator attacked Meteor Lake, his wife and children definitely wouldn't be able to resist. It wouldn't be a battle on the same level. The current Meteor Lake was probably already in ruins. It would be lucky for even one person to survive. But what he saw in reality was completely different from what he saw. The 2 holy angels had indeed arrived. Lin Zhen could even feel their trajectory in the air. But the result was completely different. In the sky above Meteor Lake, an intense battle was erupting. There were subjugation forces here, but the God Kings had all stepped aside. With the Dominators here, they didn't have a chance to display their abilities. But the holy angels were at a disadvantage. Opposite the holy angels, there were 2 Dominators fighting against them. One of the Dominators was like a transformer. He stood there like a fat kid. Sometimes, his body would curl up and turn into a mini-planet. It couldn't be called a mini-planet. Sometimes, it was a real giant planet. Could be big or small. This planet rampaged through the air. Facing the holy angels, it fiercely attacked. Its attacks were extremely ruthless. It actually forced the holy angels, a mid-level Dominator, to retreat step by step. Lin Zhen was very familiar with this person. It was Steamed Bun. Back then in Fantasy Town, Lin Zhen had saved that planet youth. Now, after 1,000 years, Steamed Bun had already grown up. He was no longer a small planet. He was now a huge planet. Everything on this planet was complete. This meant that Steamed Bun had entered the mature stage. He had obtained the Water Element Dominator Crystal, which filled his planet with vitality. This also caused his strength to increase greatly. Lin Zhen could clearly sense that Steamed Bun's current strength was comparable to that of an ordinary dominator. At the very least, a mid-level dominator could only defend in front of him. If the holy angels joined forces, Steamed Bun might not be their match. But Steamed Bun had a companion. This companion was the other person Lin Zhen had given the Dominator Crystal to, the youth He Tu. After 1,000 years, He Tu had also matured a lot. The young and inexperienced youth from back then had disappeared and was replaced by a handsome and mature man. His every movement was elegant and handsome. The weapon in his hand was a top-grade weapon, and it was unknown where he had gotten it from. His spear technique was exquisite. Even Lin Zhen's spear technique had many redeeming qualities. He was facing God's angel, who was stronger than Saint's angel. But in front of Black Soil, God's angel was nowhere to be found. Black Soil's strength was definitely above Steamed Bun's. Steamed Bun's strength was close to that of an exalted dominator, while Black Soil had the strength of an exalted dominator. He was even close to a special dominator. The spear in his hand was like a dragon, completely suppressing the angel of God. The two angels were battered and exhausted by He Tu and Steamed Bun's attacks. Their wings were riddled with holes and they no longer looked like angels. They had turned into birdmen. What's going on? Why is there a sovereign protecting Starfall Lake in secret? The two angels were on the verge of breaking down. They had come here to show off their might and experience the thrill of slaughter. They hadn't expected to run into two such powerful rulers. Steamed Bun chuckled. Idiot! How dare you target my big brother Lin's family? You're just courting death. I remember you guys. You guys became sovereigns in Fantasy Town. That's right. We became sovereigns because of Big Brother Lin. Now that Big Brother Lin isn't here, Big Brother He Tu and I just finished our mission in Beast King Prison. When we saw the situation in the dimensional universe, we immediately came to protect him. Without a sovereign, it wouldn't be convenient for us to bully the weak. But who would have thought that you two idiots would come? Then let's settle the old and new debts together. Seeing Steamed Bun chattering away, God's angel clenched his teeth in anger. Mighty sovereigns are actually acting as guard dogs for someone else. How embarrassing! Even though Steamed Bun was chubby, his mouth didn't show any mercy. You fellows who don't understand the human language, we're the ones who have received the grace of a little water, and we have to repay it with a gushing spring. The way I see it, you two are the dogs, the watchdogs of the Radiant Sovereign. And you still have the heart to come here and cause trouble? Your master is probably not far from death. When the time comes, you two homeless dogs won't even be able to find your way home, haha. They were all sovereigns and knew the situation in the wild continent. Even though it wasn't convenient for ordinary people to hear, they could all understand each other. Waha! You two new sovereigns are actually so arrogant. God's angel and Saint's angel didn't like Steamed Bun and wanted to attack him together. However, Steamed Bun wasn't an idiot. Even though he couldn't fight one against two, he still had Hey Tuesday boss Hey Tu. You're known as a peerless genius. It's time for you to show off. Hey Tu, who hadn't said a word, moved and stood in front of Saint's angel. Want to eat Steamed Bun? Eat a mouthful of dirt first. The spear in his hand rolled out. He alone blocked two sovereigns, and he had more than enough to spare. Hey Tu's performance shocked Saint's angel. He was originally an unknown person, but he was actually so powerful. They didn't consider that when Lin Zhen entered the top 30 of Fantasy Town's Divine Monument, apart from Lin Zhen, the other 20 or so were all sovereigns' disciples. There was only one exception, and that was Hey Tu. To be able to stand out in such a situation, one could see that this person's talent was absolutely astonishing. If those people weren't sovereigns' disciples, if there wasn't a peerless genius like Lin Zhen, then Hey Tu's talent would be number one in the entire universe. Thus, even though Hey Tu hadn't cultivated for a long time, he still wasn't someone Saint's angel could defeat. The two of them couldn't even take down Hey Tuesday. At this moment, Steamed Bun ran to the side with a smile to watch the battle. Handsome Hey-Tu, perform well. I'll leave these two good-for-nothings to you. Hey-Tu smiled bitterly. Defeating them is easy, but I'm afraid others will come. Don't be afraid even if they come. Don't forget, we also have reinforcements here. There are quite a few special sovereigns who have a close relationship with our big brother Lin. As he spoke, Steamed Bun turned to Meteor Lake and shouted, Uncle, Auntie, sisters-in-law, don't worry. Just stay here and relax. Leave these good-for-nothings to me. His voice was very loud, and the entire Meteor Lake could hear him. However, he completely ignored Hey-Tu, who was fighting bitterly. It was as if all the credit belonged to him. Within Meteor Lake, Lin Jin's family finally smiled. After fighting bitterly for more than 800 years, they finally saw the light. Chapter 14:10. Seeing this scene, even Lin Jin, who had a heart of stone, couldn't help but feel moved and excited. What a close call! He spat out a long breath of turbid air. That breath penetrated the starry sky and even pierced through hundreds of meteorites in an asteroid belt before disappearing into the vast universe. Today, Lin Jin's strength was definitely top-notch even among the rulers. As long as he wasn't surrounded by many people, there weren't many people in the entire universe that Lin Jin needed to worry about. Moreover, the scene of Lin Jin being surrounded probably wouldn't happen again. This was because everyone knew that Lin Jin had already died from self-detonation. Even if someone knew that Lin Jin was still alive, it wouldn't be easy to gather a group of rulers. Those who wanted to kill Lin Jin back then were either dead or injured. There weren't many left. Lin Jin knew that above Meteor Lake, Hey-Tu and Steamed Bun didn't think he was still alive either. They already knew about his self-detonation, but they didn't tell his family. The people here were also forcefully holding on. Even though Hey-Tu and Steamed Bun had a certain advantage, it wasn't enough to kill the Holy Angel. If other rulers came with hatred or 2 more reinforcements, Meteor Lake would still be in danger. Phew! I can't let my family wait any longer. I have to rush back immediately. With Lin Jin's current ability, it wasn't easy to travel through the wild continent to Meteor Lake. Traveling through the entire endless sea of stars was 1 trillion light-years away. Even if he traveled through parallel universes at superluminal speed, it would take him at least 100 years. 100 years to reach Meteor Lake. No matter how the situation developed, it would be too late. Lin Jin needed a faster flying method. Currently, Lin Jin's 9th reincarnation was only 1 step away from perfection. His good assistant Crazy wouldn't be able to awaken, and no one would be able to help him in time. However, Lin Jin had his own method. If it was in the past, Lin Jin would also be helpless. However, after his 9th reincarnation as a mortal, his understanding of the new universe was becoming more and more perfect. He had already found a method that belonged solely to him. Dimensional positioning, spatial shift. Materialism believed that there could be other spatial worlds outside the universe that were parallel to the one he was in. They were adjacent and overlapped, but they couldn't enter each other. However, when the world's order was often disrupted at a certain point in time, it would lead to the occurrence of supernatural phenomena. For example, a spatial door suddenly opened, or a person or a plane would suddenly enter a strange space, or even disappear in public. Some people disappeared, never to return. Some people returned, but lost some of their memories. There were also a few people who came back with their memories, but what they said was treated as a lunatic and was not accepted. It was impossible for them to cause any waves in society. In fact, what they had entered was an overlapping universe. 2 universes or even 3 or 4 universes. This kind of special space-time disorder was uncontrollable and irregular. However, if a person had the power to control another space-time, he could even create a spatial intersection. With Lin Jin's current power in the new universe, although the overflowing power of the universe wasn't enough to affect the general direction and range of this world, it was still possible to create a foothold in the new universe at a small point. Lin Zhen's chaotic universe, although small compared to the size of this universe, was still another parallel universe. It was connected to this universe in a broad sense. Lin Zhen could position himself in the demonic planet, the dark light realm, and the primordial realm. He could even position himself in the new territories and use the power of the new universe to teleport to the largest location within his power. Of course, Lin Zhen couldn't position himself infinitely far yet. He couldn't teleport from the current wasteland continent to the new territories, nor could he reach the fallen star lake. He still needed to take a few steps. He even needed to rest midway. After all, this kind of positioning consumed too much energy. However, compared to normal flight, it was much faster. He didn't need 100 years, 10 years, a year, or even half a year or 3 months. Lin Zhen could easily reach the fallen star lake from the wasteland continent in a month at most. If he didn't stop, he could reach in half a month. Lin Zhen also believed that the situation at the fallen star lake wouldn't really change in half a month. At the very least, the rulers who left the wasteland continent wouldn't be able to reach the fallen star lake in half a month. If they wanted to reach there, 30 years would be the limit. Therefore, although Lin Zhen was in a hurry, he wasn't too worried. After sitting cross-legged for a while, Lin Zhen patiently searched for the position of the dimensional positioning. Although the new universe hadn't officially opened, it could already provide him with a lot of help. He could see the entire old universe through the dimensional power. The entire new universe was his eyes. It overlapped with the old universe in an environment. The old universe was a huge egg-shaped world. The primordial realm was the yolk, and the barrier between it and the new territories was the membrane between the yolk and the egg white. The new territories was the egg white. The shell of the egg was a little irregular because this universe was still growing. The new territories were expanding, and even the primordial realm was expanding. The distance of more than 1 trillion light-years had been reduced to a scale that could be seen with the naked eye. The scale of this scale couldn't be calculated. Lin Zhen could see where he was. He was on the other side of the primordial realm, on the other side of the endless sea of stars, the wasteland continent. If he wanted to teleport using the dimensional positioning, the fastest way was to pass through the endless sea of stars. With my current ability, using half of my godly power to travel is the fastest way to maximize efficiency. However, after using my godly power to teleport, I need some time to rest. I'd better not waste this time because I still have other things to do, which is to cultivate the 8th level of life genes. There were 9 levels of life genes. Lin Zhen had already reached the 7th level and could cultivate the 8th level with his current ability. However, this was the wasteland continent. There was no way to buy gene potions. One could only buy them by passing through the endless sea of stars. Let's go. I'll leave now. I'll take a bottle of gene potion from there and cultivate as I go. Lin Zhen quickly located the first location. It was a planet 30 million light-years away from the wasteland continent. It was also a planet with life. This will be my first battle. I'll try to reach the fallen star lake within a month and end this battle completely. With a thought, Lin Zhen's entire body rumbled. A puff of green smoke rose from where he was, and he disappeared instantly. He was like a bullet, but no bullet could compare to his speed. He instantly crossed the endless sea of stars and completely left the primordial realm continent. Goodbye, wasteland continent. Goodbye, my 9th nirvana. Chapter 14:11. Lin Zhen's first teleport wasn't accurate enough. He deviated from the predetermined location by 980 million kilometers. This number seemed huge, but it was actually very small compared to the distance measured in tens of millions of light-years. It was so small that it could be ignored. However, Lin Zhen didn't want to ignore it. He didn't want to miss it because he didn't have enough divine power after one of his teleportations. He sat down to rest, recover his divine power, and set off again. The second time, Lin Jun grasped the skill and narrowed the gap to 50 million kilometers. The third time, he was only 1 million kilometers away. On the fourth time, Lin Jun accurately landed on a predetermined asteroid. Phew! It's not easy to master this teleportation skill. Even if Chris was here, she wouldn't give me any hints or help. This is because there's no precedent for this in the entire dimensional universe. Lin Jun was very happy that he mastered the skill. Time after time, he teleported across the distant space and time under his feet. At this moment, Lin Jun also deeply realized the strength of the enemy behind him. For example, the person who used a string to send the holy angel to fallen Star Lake was very powerful. At the very least, they were much more powerful than him. Moreover, Lin Jun didn't know who this person was. This was also the main point. The improvement of his strength was still imminent. 7 days passed. Lin Jun had already crossed half of the endless sea of stars and arrived near the Skyfire continent. He didn't go to the main city of the continent. Instead, he chose a shortcut to land on a life planet. Lin Jun could now accurately land on a planet, but it was still difficult for him to choose a specific landing spot on the planet. After all, in the vast universe, the size of a planet was really insignificant. This time, Lin Jun's landing spot was a little off. He planned to land in the city center of this planet, but he missed by a few dozen kilometers. He landed in a bathhouse. The bathhouse was magnificent. It seemed to be a palace. When he landed, he saw something he shouldn't have seen. A young married woman with a voluptuous figure was taking a bath with a little girl. The young woman was currently bending over to wipe the little girl's body. Her plump buttocks were raised high, and the beautiful scene was enough to make people spurt blood. Lin Jun glanced at her and felt a bit of fire in his heart. This young woman was very attractive. See no evil. Lin Jun was a gentleman. He definitely wouldn't look a third time. Just as Lin Jun was about to retract his gaze, the little girl opened her mouth wide and stared blankly at him. A pretty girl tilted her head and looked at Lin Jun curiously. She was curious as to how this uncle had come here. Lin Jun was a little embarrassed. He quietly raised a finger at the little girl and made a shushing gesture. Then, he quietly teleported away from the bath. His landing was a little bad, and when he landed in the water, there was still a splash. The young woman turned around. Her eyes were as charming as a cat's. Looking at the ripples on the water surface, Xiao Chun felt somewhat surprised. Then, she looked at her daughter and seemed to have seen something. She asked, "Tao Tao, tell mother, what did you see just now?" The little girl looked up. "Mother, there was an uncle standing behind you just now. He told me not to make a sound." "What did you say?" The young woman immediately recalled her posture. If there was a man standing behind her, wouldn't that be? Her pretty face immediately flushed red. The young woman didn't think there was a ghost. If there was someone behind her, then it had to be a powerful martial artist. There were also divine transformation level guards outside the bathhouse, but they didn't notice at all. This meant that the intruder was powerful. The young woman was extremely embarrassed. She didn't expect someone to sneak into the palace. Who was it? "Tao Tao, do you remember what the person behind you looked like?" Tao Tao bit her finger. "He was very handsome, but I don't really remember." The young woman blushed for a long time, but she couldn't find anyone. She could only swallow her grievances. "Let's go, Tao Tao. I've already washed up. Mother will take you to the auction. There are many good things today." "Mother, are we not going to wait for father?" "No, our country is facing war. Your father and the officials are discussing countermeasures. We won't be of much help even if we go." A trace of worry appeared on the young woman's face. She loved her family and her country, but as a woman, she couldn't do too much. She only hoped to go to the auction house and get a very effective protective talisman. She hoped that her family and country would be stable and prosperous. The auction was hosted by the Dimensional Universe Corporation. Although she was the empress of a country, she didn't have any special privileges. She had to participate in the official auction. A white horse pulled a carriage. The young woman brought her daughter to attend this high-class auction. Lin Zhen left the bathhouse and quickly understood this planet through the dimensional universe. It was a low-level civilization's star system and a low-level civilization's planet. There were many countries on it. The country he was in was called Han and Tang. It was a name that Lin Zhen liked very much. The country's ruler was self-disciplined. There was only one empress, and the people lived and worked in peace. However, it was attacked by neighboring countries. The situation was critical. Lin Zhen wasn't in the mood to care about other people's business. He only wanted to finish his business as soon as possible. He received news that an auction was going to be held here. There was something that Lin Zhen needed. Mutated sky bamboo gene. In the Han and Tang countries of this planet, a special plant grew. It was called the sky bamboo. This type of bamboo would always grow upward. It was extremely tough, but it had a problem. It would rather break than bend. Even if it met with obstacles, it would still grow upwards until the day it broke. Some sky bamboo could even grow out of the atmosphere. However, they would eventually be destroyed by meteorites. The mutated sky bamboo that Lin Zhen needed was the best among the sky bamboo species. Only one would be born every era on the planet. This type of mutated bamboo could withstand strong natural disasters and pressure. It could grow without limit. If it was allowed to grow, a life planet would be nothing more than a flower pot. Therefore, this type of bamboo was closely monitored from the moment it was born. When it reached a certain level, it would be put down and made into a level 8 life gene medicine. This planet had been born for so long. Only once in the Earth's crust had a mutated sky bamboo, and once in the Ice Age. Now, in the new generation, the third mutated sky bamboo had attracted many people from nearby planets to buy it. Lin Zhen was now in the God realm. He could freely use the wealth there. He didn't dare to speak about other aspects, but Lin Zhen's wealth in the God realm was so great that it was incalculable. Therefore, his goal this time was to obtain the mutated sky bamboo gene. This was because every time Lin Zhen faced a ruler, he would be suppressed by the other party's ruler domain. This type of bamboo gene allowed Lin Zhen's divine power to penetrate the other party's ruler domain. Therefore, this item was extremely important to Lin Zhen. He had to obtain it. Chapter 14:12. The so-called back row tickets were basically standing ticket. Although there was a small bench to sit on, those that could sit in the back row couldn't be high officials or nobles. They also didn't have the ability to participate in the auction, so having a place to sit was enough. To put it bluntly, they were just bystanders that came to watch the fun. Lin Zhen's seat was at the side of the passage. The advantage of being here was that the view wasn't bad. Not only could he clearly see the situation on the auction stage, but he could also see great figures passing by. The martial strength of this planet was decent. The strongest person here had reached the divine transformation realm. For instance, the bath that Lin Zhen went to had a divine will transformation guard. But there were very few divine transformation martial artists. Those that could reach the longevity realm and 3-flower realm were considered decent here. Lin Zhen's current realm was disguised as a peak world king. There were many peak world kings and many of them couldn't break through to the longevity realm. This wasn't too disdainful or conspicuous. "Excuse me, come in a bit." Lin Zhen went to his seat. It was a long bench for 2 people, and a fatty was sitting on it. The fat man wasn't simple either. He was a 5th-level region king, but compared to Lin Zhen's current peak world king, he was much worse. The fat man moved his butt inwards, allowing Lin Zhen to sit beside him. Lin Zhen had just sat down when the fat man came over. Lin Zhen had met countless people over the years. This fat man was the type that was easy to get along with. Lin Zhen had met many such people. He looked at the fat man as if he wanted to say something. "Big brother, are you here to see the National Protecting Symbol auction today?" "Oh, why do you say that?" Lin Zhen hadn't paid attention to the national protecting symbol and didn't know what it was used for. Some talisman techniques were useful in the early stages of a martial artist, but they would disappear in the later stages. This was because no talisman could suppress a super master. Even if Lin Zhen had been suppressed at the Myriad Foot Mountain, it was mainly because of the mountain's strength and not because of talismans. At Lin Zhen's current realm, he wasn't someone that talismans could suppress. He, of course. Who am I? I'm the Hantang by Shaosheng. There's nothing that I don't know about here. The appearance of the kingdom-protecting talisman can stabilize the nation's fate and protect the imperial city. With this talisman, the imperial city will never fall. I dare say that most of the people here today are here for the kingdom-stabilizing talisman, but those who are truly qualified to participate in the auction, I'm afraid there aren't many. Upon hearing this, Lin Zhen's interest was piqued. Oh? Suppressing the fate of the nation and protecting the royal capital? Lin Zhen had never heard of this kind of talisman, and he really wanted to see it for himself. Bai Shaosheng continued, the appearance of the country-stabilizing talisman has caused all the countries in this world to go crazy. Although the auction will be held in Han and Tang, the other countries have already sent people over to get the country-stabilizing talisman. Think about it, this is a competition between countries. What kind of person has the ability to participate in the auction? Not even the richest man in the world. Lin Zhen nodded slightly. If this kind of talisman really existed, then it was true. Bai Shaosheng shook his head. But I think that no matter how the other countries fight, they can't compete with us. In terms of national strength, Han and Tang are the world's #1. No other country can compare to Han and Tang. Moreover, this is our home ground. How can they compete with us? Lin Zhen smiled. Are you so sure? Of course. Although the situation is turbulent and the front line is tense, as far as I know, the #1 beauty of Han and Tang, who is also the Empress of Han and Tang, will personally participate in the auction. This shows that she is determined to get the country-stabilizing talisman. The #1 beauty of Han and Tang. Lin Zhen couldn't help but think of the beautiful scene in the bathtub just now. That young woman should be the Empress. She was indeed beautiful. Yes, the Empress is the goddess of the people of Han and Tang. You can see her celestial appearance later. Bai Shaosheng looked forward and waited for the Empress to appear. Lin Zhen stopped talking and looked at today's auction items. With Lin Zhen's experience and knowledge, none of the items here could catch his eye, except for the unique sky-raising bamboo. The mutated sky-raising bamboo gene medicine was probably the second most expensive item here, second only to the country-stabilizing talisman. In Lin Zhen's opinion, the sky-raising bamboo should be the most expensive item, but it wasn't that expensive because the mutated plant gene medicine could only be used at level 8. The requirements were very strict. Martial artists at this level were all rulers and had ruler domains. Normally, they wouldn't choose this kind of bamboo. So, this thing was a bit useless. In fact, people bought it for other purposes and not to consume it as a gene medicine. Her Majesty the Empress has arrived. The guard at the door announced. Under the protection of several guards, the Empress and her princess appeared. There weren't many guards, and one of them was in the divine will transformation stage, which was enough to deal with thousands of soldiers and horses. The Empress wore a beautiful long dress and walked through the crowd with a graceful smile. Wherever she passed, people automatically bowed to show their respect. She was holding a little girl in one hand. The little girl was very cute. Her black eyes were looking around, just like her mother. Her eyes were like a cat's. Under everyone's gazes, the Empress walked to the front row and sat down. There was a seat for her. There were many people in the front row, all representatives of other countries. Although everyone was in a state of war, this was the Dimensional Universe Corporation's auction house. No one dared to cause trouble here. All along, the Dimensional Universe Corporation had been aloof. It never interfered with the affairs of any country and made a fortune in silence. Tsk, as expected of my goddess. Even with a child, she's still so beautiful. Just looking at her from afar makes me feel like the world is beautiful. If you're safe, the sky will be clear. Bai Shaoxing sighed with emotion, which made Lin Zhen feel really scared. However, Lin Zhen wasn't as optimistic as Bai Shaoxing. According to his investigation, the Han and Tang dynasties were indeed the strongest countries on this planet. But now that they were at war with several powerful countries, they had more than one opponent. Could the other party let them obtain the country-protecting talisman so easily? Lin Zhen was very doubtful. However, this was none of his business. He could leave as long as he obtained the mutated Atlas bamboo. Soon, the host said a few words, and the auction began. Lin Zhen wasn't interested in the first treasure, and closed his eyes to rest. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, more than an hour had passed. All the treasures were sold. The second last item was the mutated Atlas bamboo that Lin Zhen needed. Chapter 1413. Mutated Atlas bamboo, a plant that could penetrate the starry sky, was now made into a small bottle of medicine. It was green, sparkling, and dazzling. When the host took out the treasure, he also made a solemn introduction. Mutated Atlas bamboo is a special product of our planet. Every time the Earth's crust changes and the mountains and rivers change, it is born from the energy of the Earth's veins. It is incomparably tough and powerful, and its sharp aura can break through all domains. You are lucky to see this Atlas bamboo this time. The starting price of this medicine is 100 million, and each bid must not be less than 10 million. Although the host said it well, the people present did not buy it. It was a good thing, but unfortunately it was not very useful. After a while, the first person spoke and raised his sign. This gentleman has bid 100 million. He really has good taste. With the first bid, some of the people they liked also started to raise their placard. There were a few of them. When the price reached 170 million, the Empress slowly spoke. Atlas bamboo grows in the territory of the Han and Tang dynasties, and mutated bamboo is hard to find in a million years. Since we have encountered it, let's keep it in the Han and Tang dynasties. 200 million. Some people stopped bidding. Since the Empress of the Han and Tang dynasties had spoken, they should give her face. Moreover, this bamboo was really not very useful. Lin Zhen wanted to make the final decision at the critical moment, but he did not expect the Empress to speak first. At this moment, no one else was bidding, so he could only bite the bullet. 300 million. Suddenly, everyone looked at him. The value of this kind of currency in the primary star system was incomparable to the value of the special star system where Lin Zhen was from. $1 here could be exchanged for 100 million. Lin Zhen's wealth was incalculable. Although 300 million was not a lot, Lin Zhen attracted people's attention since he dared to compete with the Empress. Bai Shaoxing glanced at Lin Zhen. Brother, are you planning to use this opportunity to let the Empress take a look at you? I have to say you did it. It is a good idea. Sure enough, the Empress and her daughter were looking over. Meeting the Empress' cat-like eyes, Lin Zhen's face didn't turn red, and his heart didn't skip a beat. This kind of small scene really couldn't have any effect on his well-tempered face. The little girl named Tao Tao suddenly covered her mouth and said to the Empress, "Imperial Mother, this uncle is the person in the bathtub." Originally, the Empress wanted to investigate Lin Zhen's background, but when she heard her daughter's words, she immediately became angry. She was the mother of the world, yet she had been seen naked by a lecher. It would have been fine if she couldn't find him, but since she had found him, how could she let him off so easily? 500 million. For the time being, it was not easy to investigate Lin Zhen's background, so the Empress wanted to bid against Lin Zhen. As the Empress, she naturally did not lack money. She even dared to compete for the National Protector Talisman on behalf of the country, which showed how much wealth she had. However, he didn't expect to meet Lin Zhen, who didn't play by the rules. Lin Jun really didn't want to be long-winded with this empress, so he simply shouted, 10 billion. The host, who wanted to give the empress a few words of encouragement, choked on his words. Sir, how much did you say? Didn't you hear clearly? How about 100 billion then? This time, everyone present heard clearly. They were also dumbfounded. This peak world king couldn't be an idiot, right? Why would someone use 100 billion to buy this bamboo? Could it be that there was some secret to this bamboo? Some people felt that it was strange, but no one dared to try to bid against this person. Once he opened his mouth, it would be at least 100 billion. This was the Dimensional Universe Corporation's auction house. If one didn't have enough money in their account, they were not allowed to bid. Since the company didn't raise any questions, it proved that Lin Jun had the ability. The empress, who wanted to teach Lin Jun a lesson, was speechless for a long time. She didn't care about this bamboo, but what worried her more was Lin Jun's identity. This person couldn't have been sent by some country to go against her, right? Fine, spend 100 billion to buy a bamboo medicine. Later, you won't have the ability to compete with me for the national stabilizing talisman. The empress swallowed her anger. She thought that a lack of forbearance would spoil great plans. She would deal with this lecher later. Lin Jun successfully obtained the bamboo medicine. Although he had spent 100 billion, it didn't make much of a difference to someone as wealthy as him. Ignoring the envious, jealous, probing, and even malicious gazes from others, Lin Jun wanted to leave with the medicine. However, the auction house was closed at this time. Because the most important item was about to be auctioned, this place was blocked by an energy shield, and no one could enter or leave. Although Lin Jun could easily break through the shield and leave, he didn't want to complicate matters, so he decided to wait for a while longer. Soon, the auction for the last national stabilizing talisman began. Everyone who was prepared to bid for the national stabilizing talisman began to rub their fists, preparing for an intense fight in the last round. The golden talisman paper and the invisible power that could be felt clearly indicated that this talisman wasn't simple. Lin Jun glanced at it and almost laughed out loud. He thought it was some talisman, but it turned out to be a domain equipment that contained the power of a godly king. It was the weakest domain equipment, but it could easily cover an entire city. Although it was worthless in Lin Jun's eyes, on this planet where godly kings became kings, it was undoubtedly a top treasure. This thing could indeed protect a city and ensure that the city would never fall into enemy hand. Forget it, let's just watch the show. Lin Jun narrowed his eyes, preparing to watch the show. Occasionally, the little girl called Tao Tao would turn around, and Lin Jun would smile at her. The little girl wasn't afraid of strangers, so she would smile at Lin Jun too. The interaction between the adult and child was quite good. The intense auction began. The Empress didn't participate in the bidding immediately. There were 3 countries bidding now. On this planet, only these 3 countries could compete with the Han and Tang empires: the Eastern Empire, the Southern Empire, and the Northern Ice Sea Empire. The starting bid for the National Stabilizing Talisman was 10 billion, and each bid had to be at least 1 billion. The 3 countries took turns bidding, and the price rose quickly. In just a short while, it had reached 80 billion. At this point, the Empress finally joined the bidding again. She had originally planned to bid 100 billion for the first time, but Lin Jun had bid 100 billion just now, and it didn't seem to have any weight now. Hence, she bid 110 billion. After bidding, she glared at Lin Jun. The Empress was indeed generous. Her bid of 30 billion caused the Han and Tang citizens to cheer. This also showed that the Han and Tang Empress were determined to get the National Stabilizing Talisman. At this moment, the representatives of the other 3 countries looked at each other with joy. Lin Jun was far away, but he could tell at a glance. Chapter 14:14. The bidding was still going on intensely. After the Empress made her bid, the price didn't stop at all and continued to rise. At this time, people also realized how terrifying it was when a country went all out. Lin Zhen's initial 100 billion was nothing now. Although each bid was at least 1 billion, no one here increased by 1 billion. They were all increasing by 10 billion. 1,500, 1,800, 2,200. The price seemed to have been injected with chicken blood and quickly broke through 500 billion. Just like what Bai Shaoxing said, even the richest person on this planet couldn't afford this. Only a country could afford this. After the price passed 500 billion, the Empress's face became serious. Although she still had the ability to continue bidding, she had to be careful. These countries were also determined to fight to the death. 600 billion. Everyone was shocked when they raised the price by 100 billion. At the Dimensional Universe Corporation, everyone's account had to be checked. If they didn't have enough funds, they wouldn't be able to bid. The auction house would automatically stop you from raising the price to ensure fairness. The representative of the Northern Ocean Empire hesitated for a moment before raising the price to 650 billion. Immediately after, the Atlantic Empire raised the price to 700 billion. The people of Japan raised the price to 750 billion. This price was already very high. A country's annual revenue probably wouldn't exceed 300 billion. Everyone was going all out. At this time, everyone's eyes fell on the young Empress of Han Tang. Would a young girl be able to withstand the pressure and defeat her opponent at this time? The Empress looked at the competitors who were constantly provoking her and smiled. 1 trillion. The crowd was in an uproar. 1 trillion, that was such a huge amount of wealth. The spectators couldn't take it when she said it so casually, but the Empress acted as if nothing had happened. When the price of 1 trillion was announced, one country was silenced. That was the Northern Ocean Empire. They prepared less than 1 trillion. After defeating their first competitor, many people from Han Tang were very excited. However, the bidding continued. The people from the Atlantic Empire didn't look too good and raised the price by another 50 billion. The Empress immediately raised the price by another 500 billion to 1 trillion. At this time, the people from the Atlantic Empire were also silenced. This price also exceeded the upper limit of their funds. The people of the East Ocean Empire were considered wealthy. They went back and forth with the Empress a few more times, but in the end they lost to the figure of 4 trillion. A faint smile appeared on the Empress's face. Looks like this auction is over. If no one else is bidding, then I'm going to collect the nation-protecting talisman. Just as the host was about to announce the end of the auction, the people from the Atlantic Empire suddenly stood up. It's not over yet. The Atlantic Empire is willing to transfer the funds in our account to the Eastern Empire so that they can continue fighting with the Han and Tang empires. That's right, our Northern IC Empire is the same. I have over 900 billion in my account, and I'm willing to help the Eastern Ocean Empire. There were people from the Universe Bank present, and the transfer began on the spot. The Empress, who had always been indifferent, finally changed her expression. She was very clear about how much money the Han and Tang empires had. They could easily defeat any country alone, but if the other 3 countries joined forces, their financial resources would definitely be above the Han and Tang empires. Was the nation-protecting talisman going to be snatched away by them just like that? The Empress's heart was in a mess. At this moment, she knew that she had underestimated her opponents. The other party had probably planned this a long time ago. If the 3 of them joined forces to defeat the Han and Tang empires, the Han and Tang empires would no longer have the final assurance. When the Han and Tang empires were destroyed, they would be able to earn back all the money they had spent. Soon, the transfer was completed. The wealth of the 3 countries was gathered in the hands of the East Ocean representative. The East Ocean representative smiled at the Empress. Empress of the Han and Tang Empress, you don't have to worry about anything. Even if the Han and Tang empires lose and are destroyed, you will still be safe. Our emperor has long admired you, and when the time comes, he will definitely bring you into the palace. You will still be the Empress." The Empress's face turned cold. "Stop dreaming. Hee hee, you can say that it's a dream now, but when the time comes, it won't be up to you." 5 trillion. The combined wealth of the three countries had already exceeded 3 trillion. This was all in cash, and it was not something that could be gathered in a short period of time. He was full of confidence. The Empress took a deep breath. 6 trillion. 7 trillion. 8 trillion. In the face of such a stubborn Empress, the East Ocean representative directly shouted out 2 trillion. This was because he had already investigated. The Han and Tang Empresses' reserves were definitely not more than 2.5 trillion. At most, it was 23,000 to 23,000. This was almost their limit. Sure enough, the Empress of the Han and Tang Empress could not continue shouting. She was a little desperate. The other party had more than 3 trillion. How could she fight? Should she go and appeal to the people? It was simply too late. Perhaps there were some rich people present who could help her a little, but in this kind of national-level competition, the wealth of an ordinary person was simply a drop in the bucket. However, in a desperate situation, the Empress of the Han and Tang Empress could only look at the people present for help. She would raise as much as she could and try to delay as much time as possible. The first thing she saw was Lin Zhen's playful smile. This person was very rich, but would he help her? Was he from the Han and Tang Empress? The Empress was really embarrassed to ask Lin Zhen for help. After all, this person had just looked at her. Moreover, in her heart, Lin Zhen was probably here to cause trouble. How could she ask for help? She braced herself and held on. There were also people present who continuously transferred money to the Empress. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even tens of millions were transferred into his account, but it was all for naught. Who could make up for the difference of over 1 trillion? The representative of the East Ocean Empire laughed loudly. "Empress of the Han and Tang Empress, don't struggle. Accept your fate. If you continue to stall like this, the Dimensional Universe Corporation will not allow it." The host of the Dimensional Universe Corporation also urged, "If you don't raise the price, it will be taken as the Han and Tang Empress giving up. Wait for me a little longer. Give me a little more time." The Empress hurriedly pleaded. It was not easy to gather some money. Together with what she had left, the Empress shouted out a price of 1 trillion. This was her last ability. It was impossible for her to have any more. The representative of the East Ocean sneered. Just as he was about to give the Han and Tang Empress the final blow, a sudden voice rang out. "So lively. Then I'll join in the fun too. 3 trillion. Everyone's jaws dropped. They turned around and looked at the man who seemed to be causing trouble. Chapter 14-15. Everyone turned to look at the mysterious man. Bai Shaoxing was so shocked that he fell off his chair. This couldn't be a troublemaker. If one didn't have that much money, they wouldn't be able to call out such a high price. This person actually had 3 trillion, and it looked like it was effortless. Who was he? The Empress stared blankly at Lin Zhen. Her heart was in a mess. This person, was he trying to help him? If that was the case, he would owe the other party a huge favor. If the other party made some unreasonable requests, what should he do? Although his realm wasn't high, when he casually said 3 trillion, it made the Empress's heart beat faster. The feeling of being saved in a desperate situation was the most fatal love flower for a woman. The Japanese representative was also stunned for a long time. He even asked around who this person was. But after asking around, no one knew Lin Zhen's background. "Kid, you better be careful when you call out a price. Although I don't know where your money came from, you're going against 3 countries at the same time. The consequences aren't something you can bear." Lin Zhen smiled and raised his hand. "If you're not convinced, please call out a price." The Japanese representative choked. He immediately asked someone to check Lin Zhen's bank information. That was because one had to provide a bank account number to enter this auction. They soon found out, but the result was that he didn't have enough authority. Damn it! How could he not have enough authority? We used the country's name to check, even if he's in the divine realm. The staff was sweating. We really can't find anything. We can't even see the other party's authority level. It's beyond the scope of our investigation. The Japanese representative felt a chill in his heart. It seemed that the other party had a big background. It was impossible for him to win against such an unknown person. The other party said 3 trillion as easily as eating. He only had 3 trillion. How could he win? But the people from the Dimensional Universe Corporation were already urging him. He had no choice but to raise the price. In the end, he could only bite the bullet and say weakly, 3 trillion. At this moment, he felt that even if Lin Zhen said 5 trillion or even 10 trillion, he would not be surprised. This was because the other party might not be from this planet, so it was normal for him to say such a sky-high price. Everyone, including the Empress of Han and Tang, turned their hopeful gazes to Lin Zhen, wanting to see if this mysterious person could still do something mysterious and shocking. However, to everyone's surprise, Lin Zhen's next words were, "All right, you win. I'm a few hundred yuan short." This sentence caused everyone to burst out laughing. The Japanese representative couldn't believe his ears. He stared at Lin Zhen, dumbfounded. His eyes were filled with ecstasy. The Empress stood up excitedly and ran to Lin Zhen while holding her beautiful dress. Her face was a little red because of her eagerness. "Sir, you can't. You already have 3 trillion, so you can definitely win. I still have 2 trillion. If I cooperate with you, I'll definitely be able to buy this talisman. Please save the people of Han and Tang." Lin Zhen looked at the beautiful Empress in front of him and smiled. "It's a pity. I'm not related to you. We're not friends, and we don't have any special relationship. I can't cooperate with you." "You." The Empress's face was red. In her opinion, the meaning of Lin Zhen's words was very clear. He wanted her to give her body. This would be considered a special relationship. Although this was very inappropriate and went against her morals, for the sake of the people of Han and Tang, she couldn't care less. "As long as Sir agrees, I'm willing to agree to any of Sir's requests." There seemed to be a lot of heartbreaking sounds around. The Empress actually agreed to such a request. This kid was really lucky. However, doing such a thing would make the Emperor wear a green hat. This Empress could only die. Lin Zhen touched his chin with his hand. "What a good Empress. I'll have to think about it carefully. I'll give you an answer later." The Empress was very anxious. She wanted to grab Lin Zhen and make him agree immediately. Lin Zhen suddenly smiled and said, "If I ruin their plans, will Her Majesty agree to any of my requests? Think about it carefully. My request might be too much. After all, I have many tricks up my sleeve." The Empress was so nervous that her heart almost jumped out of her chest. She was a little afraid of Lin Zhen, but at this moment she couldn't back down. She could only bite the bullet and nod. "I'll agree to anything, as long as you hurry up." However, the Japanese representative saw hope. He even ran to the front of the stage and said to the host, "They're stalling for time. Hurry up and announce the end. Time's up." The host of the Dimensional Universe Corporation looked at the time. It was indeed time. Lin Zhen didn't have any intention of bidding, so he chose to end it. 3 trillion going once, going twice, going thrice sold. The hammer fell to the ground. The country's stabilizing talisman was sold. The haunting Empress fell in front of Lin Zhen and sobbed. Everything was too late. This person really didn't have good intentions. He was here to play with her. After taking advantage of her, he purposely gave her hope and made her lose face in front of others. In the end, he still didn't agree. After this matter was over, she could only kill herself to thank her people. Bai Shaosheng looked at Lin Zhen angrily, as if he wanted to bite Lin Zhen at any time. The representative of the East Ocean Empire happily ran over and took the nation's stabilizing talisman. This talisman was incomparably tough. None of their current methods could destroy it. As long as this talisman existed, the imperial city of any country could be said to be invincible. The Japanese representative came in front of the Han Empress and Lin Jun and proudly raised the talisman. "Kid, although I don't know what you mean, I advise you to bring enough money before you come back. Han Empress, your only choice is to become the Japanese Empress. We'll meet again then, ha ha." As they spoke, they hurriedly walked out, afraid that a long night would bring trouble. Just as they passed by Lin Jun seemed to have inadvertently raised a hand and used a finger to scratch the talisman. Rip! A sound that wasn't loud but was extremely ear-piercing rang out. The talisman in the hands of the Japanese representative was torn apart. The entire place was silent. Everyone's eyes were focused on the talisman that the representative of the East Ocean Empire was holding. A talisman worth 3 trillion was destroyed just like that. This matter was a little too much for them to accept. Spending more money, squandering more. They had never seen such a prodigal before. After losing 3 trillion, what war potential did the three empires have? Chapter 14-16. At this time, everyone knew that this peak world king definitely had a great background. The indestructible nation protecting symbol had been torn apart like paper in his hands. This level of strength left even a divine transformation powerhouse in the dust. The Han Empress looked at Lin Jun in a daze. His strength, wealth, and masculine face caused her heart to race. She couldn't help but agree to Lin Jun's request. But before she could speak, she was interrupted by Lin Jun. He was only passing by and saw the Han Empire's situation, so he decided to help. He didn't want to provoke any more peach blossoms. "I admire the Han Empress' feelings for her country and her people. Since we've met today, this is fate. Let me give you a gift." As Lin Jun spoke, he took out something from the divine world. This was a bronze cauldron, a domain equipment. It was one of the spoils of war that Lin Jun had obtained from killing numerous sovereigns. Lin Jun had many such spoils of war. At the time, he had taken them all into the divine world and hadn't had time to look through them. Now that he looked through them, this was the worst one he had, and also the most suitable one. This item is 100 times stronger than the nation protecting symbol. If you place it in your imperial city, there will be a protective barrier for 500,000 kilometers around. It will protect your land and never allow anyone to invade. Take it. The Empress carefully took the bronze cauldron and held it in front of her chest like a treasure. Her twin peaks trembled, causing Lin Jun to take several more glances. Lin Jun looked at the little girl called Tao Tao. He faintly smiled and said, "This is for you." A small protective talisman appeared in front of Tao Tao's chest. This was a form of defensive equipment. Not only could it defend against the mental attacks of quasi-sovereigns, but it also automatically formed a protective barrier around her body. It could be said that it was difficult for anyone to injure her. After doing all of this, Lin Jun stood up and walked out of the auction house. Before leaving the auction house, the unreconciled representatives of the Eastern Ocean viciously said, "Sir, you've ruined our plans. Are you not going to leave your name behind?" "Haha, I've already said it. Think about it yourselves. If you have the courage, I welcome you to take revenge at any time." After saying that, Lin Jun had already disappeared. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. They had no idea when Lin Jun had announced his name. Only Tao Tao's focus was different from the others. She said to the Empress, "Imperial Mother, that uncle said he was Mr. Lin. Is his surname Lin?" The Empress was taken aback. "Lin, super powerful, rich, human. I know who he is." She was not the only one who knew about it. Almost everyone present knew about it. This person was Lin Jun. However, this was the endless sea of stars, and Lin Jun was a legendary figure. No one had thought of him for a while. Now that they thought of Lin Jun's appearance, Who else could it be but him? For a moment, everyone was immersed in the ecstasy of seeing a legendary figure. As for the auction itself, not many people paid attention to it. On the way back, the Empress fell into deep thought. With the treasure Lin Zhen had given her, she no longer had to worry about Han and Tang. However, her heart felt a little empty. She did not know if she would have the chance to see this person again in this life. At this point, she even felt a little regretful. If Lin Zhen had really made some requests, perhaps it would have been better. Carrying the gene medicine of the mutated Atlas bamboo, Lin Zhen had already left this planet. The storms here did not belong to him. He was just a passerby here. There were still relatives waiting for him at home. He could not stay anywhere for too long. The next time Lin Zhen landed, he would land on an uninhabited barren planet. This was a white dwarf that was about to die. The boiling heat waves prevented any life form from approaching it. However, for Lin Zhen, this was just a place to rest, a quiet place to rest. He started to fuse with the level 8 life genes here. Fusing with level 8 life genes required the strength of a ruler. However, for Lin Zhen, who had a godly power level of 100 million, this was not a problem. As long as he fused with this gene medicine, Lin Zhen would no longer have to fear the power of a ruler's domain. He would be able to fight on equal footing. When that time came, he would not be a ruler. He would be stronger than one. Fusing with the gene medicine was a walk in the park. When he fused with it, a heavenly tribulation descended. Lin Zhen did not care about this heavenly tribulation at all. This was because he had already grasped the power of primal chaos. He was almost immune to heavenly tribulations. After living through the 8th life, Lin Zhen's new universe was a permitted existence. There was nothing fishy about the heavenly tribulation. The power of the universe's origin seemed to have forgotten about Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen easily passed through the heavenly tribulation that was neither painful nor itchy. After passing through the heavenly tribulation, the gene of the mutated Atlas bamboo appeared in Lin Zhen's life genes. This type of bamboo was not as weak as wood-type life forms, nor was it as sharp as metal-type life forms. However, it had the power to break through all restraints. After fusing with Lin Zhen's bloodline, he gained this extra power that specialized in breaking through all domain suppression. This is great. With this power, any ruler who wants to use their domain power or domain equipment to suppress me will not be able to do so. This way, my combat strength will increase imperceptibly. Lin Zhen raised his hand and saw a trace of green in his palm. This was the power of the Atlas bamboo. This power was actually somewhat compatible with Lin Zhen's chaotic green lotus. Although the Atlas bamboo was not as miraculous as the chaotic green lotus, they were still plants. The two powers had many similarities. In particular, when Lin Zhen's dimensional power landed on the Atlas bamboo's green aura, it did not repel each other. This power, when combined with my own dimensional power, seems to be able to travel through time and space. At this moment, Lin Zhen realized that the Atlas bamboo had such a function. This discovery made Lin Zhen extremely excited. Although it might take a long time to master this power, this move would become his trump card in the future. This was the first time he had grasped this power, so Lin Zhen felt a little uncomfortable. With a thought, the Atlas bamboo's green aura broke out of his body and turned into a purple bamboo staff. This was the shape of the mutated Atlas bamboo before it was condensed into a medicine. Now, with the cooperation of Lin Zhen's dimensional power, although it did not have the destructive power of a supreme equipment, its toughness was not weak at all. This was the special characteristic of the Atlas bamboo. Go. Let's see where you can travel to. Lin Zhen raised his hand, and his divine will controlled the Atlas bamboo to fly into the air. It turned into a green light and transcended the boundaries of time and space, disappearing into the distance. The next moment, the Atlas bamboo appeared in a place filled with birds and flowers. Chapter 14-17. Lin Jun never imagined that Optimus Bamboo's first test flight would lead him to the Radiant God's Kingdom of Light. The Radiant God's Kingdom was a world created by the Radiant God. If the Radiant God died, the world would quickly collapse. The people living in the Radiant God's world might survive if they had the ability to flee, but if they didn't, they would die. They lived carefree lives under the Radiant God's protection, but they would die because of the Radiant God's defeat. That was their fate. Lin Jun had just tossed out Optimus Bamboo for a test flight. He hadn't thought about where it would go, but he didn't expect it to end up here. This could only be said to be fate. Optimus Bamboo's appearance wasn't spectacular or eye-catching. It just silently penetrated the barrier between the Radiant God's kingdom and the outside world and quietly arrived. Moreover, this bamboo was mysterious. It was like Lin Jun's eyes, as if he himself had arrived here. Controlling Optimus Bamboo, he quietly hid it above the clouds of the Radiant God's kingdom and slowly flew forward, like a surveillance camera. Everything on the ground of the Radiant God's kingdom was easily within his sight. According to what Lin Jun knew, the Radiant God's kingdom was known as a paradise. The Radiant God proclaimed that after worshipping him, they would have the opportunity to enter the Radiant God's kingdom of light and enjoy bliss. There was no sickness or suffering here, no disaster or death. Angels sang and skylarks flew. It was a huge garden empire. The Radiant God's believers all yearned for this paradise, so they became more and more devout in their faith. But now, what Lin Jun saw was a bit different. The Radiant God's kingdom of light was covered with a layer of gray mist. Everyone's face was filled with worry. This was because their king, their supreme Radiant God, had been injured. The Radiant God was surrounded by a baleful aura of death and was in the midst of emergency treatment. If the Radiant God died, the Radiant God's kingdom would cease to exist. Lin Jun controlled Optimus Bamboo and quietly flew towards the Radiant God's palace in the depths of the Radiant God's kingdom. The palace was tall and incomparably sacred. There were also palaces of holy angels on the left and right of the door. Usually, if one wanted to see the Radiant God, they would have to pass through them. But now, these two palaces were empty. The holy angels were at Starfall Lake. Under the concealment of dimensional power, Atlas Bamboo silently sneaked into the Radiance Shrine. After passing through many intricately carved corridors, they arrived at the depths of the temple. This was the Chief Sovereign of Light's room. Two pseudo-chief sovereigns were standing guard in front of the door. Lin Jun's sky-propping bamboo's dimensional force operated and silently entered the room. The walls didn't obstruct space at all. This room was filled with powerful radiant energy. The Radiant Sovereign was currently using radiant energy to expel the innate baleful deathly aura. When he was fighting with Lin Jun, he had only been slightly affected, but the result was that he was in such a passive state. If he wasn't proficient in the power of light, he probably wouldn't have survived. However, the banishment was not over yet. It was not even halfway done yet. He did not notice Lin Jun's arrival. Lin Jun watched from midair, wondering if he should use sky-lifting bamboo to give the Radiant Ruler another blow. However, the sky-raising bamboo was not an ultimate equipment, so it might not be able to kill him from such a distance. Besides, Lin Jun had a feeling that something was going to happen. After waiting patiently for a while, the Radiant Sovereign finished his round of cultivation. "Help me again. This innate baleful deathly aura is difficult to expel. I'm having a hard time doing it myself." Lin Jun was stunned. He wondered who the Radiant Sovereign was talking to. He was certain that he wasn't talking to him. However, there was no one else in the room. When he looked closely, Lin Jun saw a small water mirror in the light. The water mirror was so small that it was almost unnoticeable. The image in the mirror was blurry, and he could not see who it was. Under the strong light, it was even harder to tell who it was. The Radiant Sovereign looked at the water mirror. A mocking smile appeared on his lips. "Do you have to do this? There's only you and me here, so who are you trying to hide for?" A hoarse voice came from the water mirror. You've done badly this time. Not only did you fail, but you've also exposed the fact that I'm an ultimate equipment. If I hadn't hidden myself well, I'm afraid someone would have discovered who I am. You should be fine with me here, right? There's no harm in being careful. Remember, a sovereign's methods are ever-changing. It's always right to be careful. Fine. Your identity is a mystery. You don't have to show yourself, but what about my injuries? Take your time to heal your injuries. If I interfere, it'll arouse even more suspicion. The Radiant Sovereign's expression turned ugly. You can't do this and you can't do that. Tell me, how can you help me? This time, that Lin Jun caused me so much trouble, but I didn't see you come to my rescue. Humph. If it weren't for the fact that I lent you my ultimate equipment, do you think you'd be alive today? The person in the water mirror was clearly angry. The Radiant Sovereign immediately wilted. No one could have predicted Lin Jun's growth. We'll definitely meet again in the future. The most important thing for you is to stay alive. Don't worry about anything else. Fine. However, if I don't kill Lin Jun, I won't be able to get rid of the hatred in my heart. However, there aren't many people in this world who can deal with Lin Jun. You have to find a time to act. I understand. Don't forget our agreement. All right, Myth Boss. When he heard this, Lin Jun was stunned. Myth Boss. In this universe, the only person who could make the Radiant Sovereign address him as such was the first sovereign, the Myth Sovereign of Jiangnan. Could the person in the water mirror be from Jiangnan? Lin Jun had his suspicions. However, when he saw that the Radiant Sovereign was about to put away the water mirror and disappear, Lin Jun immediately controlled the sky-raising bamboo and struck the back of the Radiant Sovereign's head. The Radiant Sovereign had never dreamed that he would be attacked in his own bedroom. Caught off guard, he was struck off the bed by Lin Jun's bamboo. The back of his head was smashed open. Although this strike wasn't enough to kill the Radiant Sovereign, it was enough to keep him in bed for a while longer. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Jun approached the water mirror. The person in the water mirror shook his sleeve, covering his face so that Lin Jun couldn't see him clearly. Then, the water mirror vanished. Lin Jun felt slightly regretful. He had been so close that he couldn't see the person's face clearly. However, the Radiant Sovereign had said that this person was a Myth Sovereign. It seemed that he would have to be more careful in the future. Those who had the confidence to take care of him were probably only those who had reached the peak of the Sovereign realm. The Myth Sovereign, the Lonely Star Fisherman, and the Fallen Star Sovereign. The other two had some ties with him. Only the Myth Sovereign was the most suspicious. Lin Jun had wanted to use the sky-raising bamboo to hit the Radiant Sovereign a few more times. However, such attacks that transcended time and space consumed a lot of god power. Lin Jun couldn't hold on any longer and could only retreat helplessly. When he opened his eyes, Lin Jun was already back on the white short star he was on. Fortunately, I didn't come here in vain. To think that I'd see something like this. Chapter 14:18. The stalemate at Fallen Star Lake finally changed. Originally, Hei-Tu and steamed bun were enough to suppress the divine angels and let Fallen Star Lake rest easy. But on this day, in the sky above the Fallen Star Lake battlefield, a black thread silently arrived, and it actually caused a hole in the sky. Dark clouds rolled in the sky and a fiendish aura surged out from the hole in the sky. The entire Fallen Star Lake was plunged into darkness. In the darkness, pairs of eyes were like lanterns, making people feel intimidated. The others didn't know what was happening, but Hei-Tu and steamed bun knew what it meant. Beast King Prison. Someone opened a passage between Fallen Star Lake and Beast King Prison. Who did this? Hearing these words, everyone fell into a panic. Of the 3 forbidden zones of the universe, the most terrifying was Beast King Prison. Because there were Dominator-level monsters running rampant, not to mention ordinary warriors, even Dominator-level experts often fell there. Every warrior who became a Dominator had to go to Beast King Prison to gain experience. Only those who came out alive could be considered true dominators. But they didn't expect someone to be able to open a passage between Beast King Prison and Fallen Star Lake. Who was this person? He was actually so tyrannical. And if the passage to Beast King Prison couldn't be controlled, vicious beasts would run rampant in the human world. That would be a disaster. This person's methods were truly vicious. When the two divine angels saw this, they laughed loudly. Hey two, steamed bun. You two are Lin Jin's lackeys. Now that Beast King Prison is directly connected to Fallen Star Lake, countless monsters are about to flood this place. Let's see how you people will stop them. The two divine angels waved their hands. Let's retreat and watch the destruction of Fallen Star Lake from afar. Then we'll clean up the battlefield. The army attacking Fallen Star Lake began to retreat, but they didn't go far. They only retreated a few hundred kilometers and still surrounded Fallen Star Lake from afar. They decided to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight, waiting for Fallen Star Lake to collapse. Hey two and Steamed Bun didn't pursue because monsters had already appeared from the hole in the sky. Madams, the two of us are responsible for blocking the Dominator-level monsters. You have to do your best to ensure that Fallen Star Island doesn't fall to the monsters. Hey two roared and charged forward with Steamed Bun. Among the monsters that appeared were a golden flower python and a dragon. They were both Dominator-level monsters. The others couldn't stop them. An intense battle broke out in the Meteor Lake as a steady stream of ferocious beasts began to pour in. Hey two and Steamed Bun were tangled up with the ruler demon beast. It would take a while for a victor to be decided, so the battle seemed a bit dull. On the other hand, the female generals of the Lin family were performing very well. After so many years of battle training, everyone had improved a lot. And Ning, Su Mingwei, and the others had already become divine kings. Ning Qingxian had reached the pseudo-dominator realm, while Snow White and the Baisu sisters were experts amongst the pseudo-dominator realm. As for Feng Qingluan, she had completed nirvana and her strength was even above the Bai sisters. Even Mayor Lin had become a divine king, surpassing her two brothers. The sisters Linger and Angel were also at the quasi-god king level. Their performance on the battlefield was outstanding. The female generals of the Lin family took the field one after another. For a time, they even restrained the wild attacks of the ferocious beasts and protected the Picking Stars Island from being lost. However, this situation didn't last for long. In the sky, the thread continued to stir furiously, sweeping up the clouds. More and more holes appeared, and more ferocious beasts began to pour out. Another golden tiger appeared. It was also at the ruler level. At this time, the battle at Meteor Lake took a turn for the worse. Feng Qingluan could only go up and fight against the ruler-level tiger. She was one of the best among the pseudo-dominators, but she wasn't at Lin Jin's level. Against a ruler, it was still difficult. Even if the Bai sisters came to help, they were still at an absolute disadvantage. The thread in the sky didn't seem satisfied. It continued to stir, and another barbarian bull ruler appeared. The fourth ruler-level ferocious beast. When the barbarian bull charged out with an unstoppable momentum, the people fell into despair. How could they stop so many ruler-level ferocious beasts? The Picking Stars Island was about to fall. In the distance, the holy angel grew excited. Everyone, get ready. Once the Picking Stars Island falls, it will be time for us to beat them up. We definitely won't give the Lin family any chance. It seemed that the 1,000-year battle at Meteor Lake was finally coming to an end. The person who would end this battle wasn't the Holy Angel, nor was it the Beast King Hell's ruler-level ferocious beasts. Rather, it was the person controlling the thread in the sky. He was the main culprit, the true mastermind behind the scenes. However, no one knew who he was. Even if the Black Bumpkin and the others tried their best to stop the barbarian bull, he would still release other ruler-level ferocious beasts. There was no way they could win. Just as everyone was in despair, the sound of a zither exploded in the sky. Clang, 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 clang. The zither's rapid vibrations were like rain hitting a banana leaf. Finally, the zither's sound transformed into spring thunder and exploded in the sky. The target of the explosion was the thread controlling everything. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The thread trembled in the air, and the person controlling it let out a cry of alarm. Ah, not good! A beautiful figure appeared in the sky. She had a sword on her back and a zither on her back. Her features were picturesque. You, Sunflower Scar. Junior, how dare you ruin my plans? The voice reverberated in the sky, but no one could tell who it was. The person who had come was the new special ruler-level expert, Sunflower Scar. Just like the Black Bumpkin and the Black Bumpkin, she had finally completed her training as a ruler and returned from the Beast King Hell. Sunflower Scar looked at the floating thread in the sky. Who are you? Why did you attack Lin Jun? You don't need to know who I am. Don't be too pleased with yourself just because you ruined my plans. Without the guidance of my thread, although the sky curtain is about to close, I can still sense the aura of the human world. Powerful ruler-level demonic beasts will definitely descend from the Beast King Hell. Let's see how you deal with them then. When the time comes, the human world will be plunged into misery and suffering. Don't blame me for this. The thread transformed into a streak of light and shot through the sky. Even Sunflower Scar couldn't stop the thread from leaving. There was no chance for her to react. The sky curtain in the sky, having lost the guidance of the thread, quickly began to close. However, an even more powerful, fiendish aura howled out from within. Right now, there were already 4 ruler-level demonic beasts in Fallen Star Lake. This was enough to make people panic. However, when this aura appeared, the 4 ruler-level vicious beasts actually retreated, trembling in fear. Sunflower Scar, who had just arrived, didn't expect this to happen. However, she had just returned from the Beast King Hell, so she wasn't unfamiliar with this aura. Not good. It's actually a Beast King. A perfect ruler-level demonic beast is coming. Sunflower Scar immediately flew to the sky above Picking Star Island. She waved her hand and called the Black Bumpkin and the Black Bumpkin over. Her expression was grave as if she was facing a great enemy. Chapter 14:19. Sovereign-level beasts were enough to give people a headache. Perfect sovereign-level beasts were almost unimaginable. Even in the entire Beast King prison, there were only a few perfect sovereign-level beasts. This level corresponded to perfect sovereigns. In the entire universe, there were only 3 of them. Even if Lonely Star Fisherman or Fallen Star Ruler wanted to help, it would be too late. Sunflower Scar stood in front of the group, holding her zither, ready to fight at any time. Sunflower Scar was definitely in the top 10 of the universe, but at this moment her hands were trembling slightly. It was because she was strong that she knew how terrifying perfect sovereign-level beasts were. Sister-in-law, Hey2 and Steamed Bun greeted her. They had stayed in Fantasy Town and knew Sunflower Scar. Sunflower Scar glanced at them and nodded slightly. These 2 were Lin Jun's brothers. This is... And Aning spoke first. Among the crowd, Aning was the first to ask. After all, she was Lin Jun's first love. Although her strength was not outstanding among these women, and her appearance was not outstanding, everyone respected her. Sunflower Scar looked back at the beautiful women behind her and smiled faintly. Hello, sisters. Although I have not officially married Lin Jun, I have already decided on him. I am a member of the Lin family in life, and in death, I am also a member of the Lin family. My name is Sunflower Scar. Aning and the others' hearts tightened. As expected, their husband was a sentimental person. Although he was not to the point of being promiscuous, he would not let go of an outstanding woman who was fated with him. However, they could accept that Lin Jun was an expert who had dominated the universe for 10,000 years. It was insignificant for him to have less than 10 wives. Not to mention Lin Jun, even the emperor of a universe country with a beginner civilization would have thousands of wives that he could not remember. It was too normal. Fortunately, Sunflower Scar was a phoenix among men, and a powerful sovereign. She would not bring shame to the Lin family. Now was not the time to talk about this. Everyone's attention was quickly placed on the sky. Just as the sky was about to disappear, a series of strange laughter came from within. This sound was very strange. It should be a human's laughter, but it didn't sound like a human's laughter. It could be said that it was a combination of roaring, arrogance, and a voice that sounded like a broken gong. Ha 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 ha! How long had he been in that damned place? Today, I finally have the chance to come out and take a breather. Just as the sky was about to close, a slender body was forcefully squeezed out. Its entire body was pitch black, like an incomparably huge loach, or lizard's. It also looked like the flood dragon race, but it was also clearly different. It was a creature that had never been seen before. His body was covered with scales, and 2 pairs of wings protruded from his ribs. They had been folded back when he had come out, but now that he was here, they were unfurled, covering the entire sky. The 4 claws were sharp, and a strange golden light flickered on them. No one doubted the power of these claws. It had a big mouth with fangs and a long tongue sticking out. It looked a little like a dog. The people present, including Sunflower Scar, didn't recognize it, but this didn't hinder the strength of this thing. Only Hey-Tu glanced at it and said hesitantly, "This is bad, sisters-in-law. When I was in the Beast King prison, I heard that there was a Dragon Bone Mountain in the Beast King prison. It was the final resting place of the super dragon race in the universe after they died. The Dragon Bone Mountain gathered the essence of all the dragon race in the world and was nurtured by the dark matter of the universe. After a long time, it formed a kind of strange dragon. It might be this guy in front of us." Sunflower Scar was surprised. "You mean, this is a dragon? It doesn't look like it." "Sisters-in-law, you don't know. The essence of the dragon race includes not only flood dragons, divine dragons, demonic dragons, and so on, but also many earth dragons. Strictly speaking, this guy is part of the dragon race, but it doesn't belong to any kind of dragon race. It has gathered the excellent genes of all the dragon race in the world, and has all the abilities of the dragon race. But because there are many earth dragon genes, this guy must be a dragon. It's just that there is no precedent, so it doesn't have a name. Some people in the Beast King prison call it the Strange Dragon, which is a strange-looking dragon." At this time, Mayor Lin, who was standing behind Su Mingyue, said, "I think it looks like a huge flying mastiff. It should be called a dragon mastiff." Several people nodded slightly. It was a bit appropriate. The appearance of the strange dragon shocked the world. The 4 sovereign demon beasts knelt down. Just as they were showing off, they heard the Lin family's discussion. The strange dragon's huge eyes glared. "What nonsense are you women talking about? I am the Lord of Dragons. What dragon mastiff? Ridiculous." The strange dragon flapped its wings and circled twice in the air, as if it was enjoying the fresh air of the primordial realm. "Tsk, tsk. It is indeed a wonderful place. I like everything here. Now I declare that everything in this world belongs to me. Everyone is my slave. The 4 of you." The strange dragon raised a claw and pointed at the python, the golden dragon, the tiger, and the bull. "The 4 of you are my subordinates, under my direct command. As for you," it then pointed at the women of the Lin family. "You women are really the best. Although we are not of the same race, this king's aesthetic is still relatively close to that of the human race. In the future, you will be this king's maids. As for you," the strange dragon pointed at the people besieging the fallen star lake. "You are all slaves. Food. The 2 birdmen with wings, the 2 of you, the black kid over there, and that person from the planet, the 4 of you will be my guards." Almost in the blink of an eye, the strange dragon had arranged everything. "That's about it. I just lack a general to conquer the world for me. There isn't anyone suitable here. This girl's strength is about the same, but she is too beautiful. Not suitable, not suitable. From today onwards, you will follow me to conquer this world. My will is supreme. No one can go against it." Almost everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at this strange dragon. This strange dragon was definitely not a good person. However, it seemed to be a little talkative and did not seem to be in good spirits. Before the others could say anything, the holy angel could not hold it in any longer. The holy angel followed the light sovereign. He was one of the universe sovereigns, the noblest of them all. In addition, he was a sovereign himself. He was proud and arrogant, and he never took others seriously. This dragon's nagging made him very unhappy. It actually assigned him a guard. What a joke! The corner of the holy angel's mouth curled, and he let out a cold laugh. Where did this idiot come from? Before he could finish his sentence, the strange dragon had already charged in front of him. Claws flashing with cold light split open and tore the holy angel apart. A dignified ruler could not even block a single move. The godly infant left his body. The strange dragon spat out a mouthful of dragon flames, turning the holy angel's godly infant into ashes. The ruler's godly crystal rose into the air and disappeared into space. Only then did the strange dragon turn his head. Opening his mouth, he placed the holy angel's broken body into his mouth and chewed. Fresh blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, making his honest face look even more ferocious. Chapter 14:20. Killing a sovereign with a single move. The moment the mystical dragon appeared, it was so powerful that it struck despair into everyone. No wonder the mysterious person said that if a sovereign beast appeared, it would be none of his business. The difference between a perfected sovereign and an ordinary sovereign was so huge. The angel of God trembled. Seeing her brother killed, she did not dare to move. Sunflower Scar's expression was serious. She knew that with her strength, she was no match for a perfected sovereign. However, she could not retreat. She could only fight with all her might. Just as everyone was preparing to fight to the death, the space in front of them suddenly rippled. A light circle flashed a few times in the space, and a figure appeared. His beard was unkempt, his hair was messy, and his clothes were tattered. At first glance, he looked like a beggar. However, the women cheered at the same time. "Hubby! Hubby! This bastard! I knew you weren't dead." A fragrant wind blew. Mayor Lin was the first to pounce. Like a swallow, she dove into Lin Zhen's arms. "Daddy." "Woo-woo." Lin Zhen was travel-worn. He had almost crossed the endless sea of stars and returned to Fallen Star Lake. When he saw his family, his heart was overflowing with joy. At this moment, he knew that he was wrong. Back then, for the sake of cultivation, he had forcefully suppressed his longing for his family. He was cold-blooded and heartless. However, after so many years, the feelings in his heart could not be suppressed. Cultivation and Gu family did not conflict. If he liked them, he liked them. There was no need to control it. He reached out and stroked his daughter's hair. "Good girl. Daddy promised to come back for your wedding. I'm not late, right?" No. It's still 100 years too early." Lin Zhen brought Mayor over to meet his wives. Sunflower Scar, the proud little girl, looked at him with red eyes. She had thought that Lin Zhen was dead. Sunflower Scar had been determined to avenge Lin Zhen for so many years. She had been cultivating diligently, but the sorrow in her heart was indescribable. Now that she saw Lin Zhen, she held back her tears. Lin Zhen gave her a big hug and then hugged Feng Qinghuan, Ning Qingxian, Snow White and Bai Su one by one. Finally, there was Su Mingyue and a Ning, his first two wives, who had been waiting for him for thousands of years. "You've all worked hard. Now that I'm back, don't worry. Your husband is a cockroach. He won't die." The women, who had never cried in the thousands of years of battle, were now crying their eyes out. Lin Ping and Lin An also came to their father with faces full of shame and asked for forgiveness. After all, this matter was caused by the descendants of the Lin family. They also had a lot of responsibility. Lin Zhen patted their shoulders. "Don't worry too much. After all, I was the one who caused this. I can't put all the blame on you. While Lin Zhen was busy comforting her, Qi Long couldn't take it anymore. What are you doing? How dare you take advantage of this king's maidservant? Do you want to die? Lin Zhen turned around and looked at the powerful beast in front of him. It was indeed very strong. It was even stronger than the sovereigns that Lin Zhen had fought before. But no matter how strong it was, Lin Zhen had to deal with it. With a raise of his hand, the lotus flower spear appeared in Lin Zhen's hand. Qi Long, who had always been carefree, couldn't help but take 2 steps back when he saw the lotus flower spear. Supreme equipment. You actually have a supreme equipment. Who are you? Why have this king never seen you in the Beast King prison? Ah, you're not a sovereign. How is that possible? Is there someone in this world who's more talented than this king? Lin Zhen sneered. There are too many things you don't know. Since you've come to Fallen Star Lake, don't think about leaving safely. Prepare to stay here. Just be my pet watchdog. Qi Long was furious. Stupid and ignorant person, don't think that you can beat me with a supreme equipment. Die. With a flap of his wings, Qi Long pounced. Lin Zhen raised his lotus flower spear and attacked with 7-fold stacks. Man and dragon collided. Lin Zhen was forced to retreat continuously. This Qi Long was very strong. Even with 7-fold stacks, he was no match for it. However, Lin Zhen's move was merely an experiment. He wanted to see how powerful a beast that had reached the peak sovereign level was. After testing it, Lin Zhen knew that he couldn't beat it. When Qi Long pounced again, Lin Zhen used his best skill. Divine Baleful Destruction Thunder. 3 consecutive bolts. Even though Qi Long was strong, he still couldn't block Lin Zhen's attack. After being hit by the 3 bolts of lightning, Qi Long was blasted down from the sky. The divine baleful death Qi lingered, but it didn't take Qi Long's life. This guy had an incomparably strong life force. It could actually resist the divine baleful death Qi. Although it was injured, it wasn't fatal. As long as it was injured, it was enough. Lin Zhen didn't expect 3 bolts of lightning to kill a sovereign beast. He teleported onto Qi Long's back and stabbed down with his lotus flower spear. Dimensional combined attack. 2 spatial powers collided. Lin Zhen's spear broke through Qi Long's scales. A piece of scale almost fell off. Lin Zhen's arms were also completely numb from the rebound. Damn it, this guy's defense is simply abnormal. Lin Zhen's supreme equipment and sovereign beast skill not only couldn't pierce through Qi Long's body, but even a piece of scale didn't fall off. Lin Zhen knew that he couldn't beat it. He had used his trump card right from the start, catching Qi Long off guard. However, he still couldn't kill it. As long as Qi Long could catch his breath, Qi Long would definitely counterattack. At that time, everyone would be finished. Lin Zhen definitely didn't want to see that happen. He simply raised his hand and 10,000 feet mountain appeared. 10,000 feet mountain was Lin Zhen's only remaining domain equipment after the battle at Fantasy Town. Because it was too big, it wasn't very useful in battle. Therefore, it was preserved. 10,000 feet mountain was a super domain equipment, the best of the best. Its weight was comparable to several galaxies. Before it could completely crush Qi Long, the entire star-picking island couldn't withstand the pressure and showed signs of collapse. Qi Long was even more shocked. He originally wanted to catch his breath and counterattack. He didn't expect this brat to have such a strange item. Damn it, don't think your domain can suppress this king. This mountain won't fall. Qi Long's body shook violently. A powerful dragon might domain appeared. The domains collided. Lin Zhen's domain was about to collapse. After all, his domain wasn't a sovereign domain. It couldn't contend against Qi Long's sovereign beast skill. However, Lin Zhen was already prepared. He raised his hand and the sky-raising bamboo attacked. Jade light shot up into the sky and broke through the dome of heaven. Qi Long's dragon might domain was like a huge balloon that had been punctured. It quickly deflated and collapsed. Wah! This is impossible. Qi Long felt that he was extremely unlucky. This brat clearly wasn't his match. However, he attacked decisively and viciously, catching him off guard. Then, there was this extremely heavy mountain pressing down on him. Qi Long's domain, which he clearly had the upper hand, was broken. If he was suppressed by this mountain, Qi Long wouldn't be able to escape. He came here to show off, not to be trapped. Brat, I'll remember you. We'll meet again. Chapter 14:21. Seeing that the strange dragon was about to escape, Lin Zhen let out a sigh of relief. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to completely deal with the strange dragon. Chasing it away was the best result. However, Lin Zhen had always been one to take advantage of opportunities. Since it was determined to escape, then he would give it another chance. Seeing the mountain fall, Lin Zhen brandished the lotus spear in his hand and once again ruthlessly struck the wound on the strange dragon's back. The spear pierced in. Lin Zhen twisted his hands like a lever, pressing and lifting. Want to leave? Leave something behind first. The strange dragon screamed miserably. A black dragon scale was pried off by Lin Zhen. The strange dragon had never suffered such a great loss in its life. As a dragon that loved beauty, having a dragon scale dug out was simply a great humiliation. But at this moment, the 10,000-foot mountain was approaching. If it didn't run now, it would be too late. The strange dragon had no choice but to fiercely glare at Lin Zhen. Then, its body twisted, and before the 10,000-foot mountain pressed down, it broke through space and left. The sky opened again and the strange dragon directly fled. Although it couldn't directly come here from the Beast King prison, it had a way to return because that was its home. The strange dragon fled. Lin Zhen only had one dragon scale left in his hand. It was 1 meter in diameter and oval in shape. Lin Zhen's attacks only left some scratches on it. In the end, he had to stab through the gaps in the dragon's scale to pry it off. If he didn't have a supreme weapon, he wouldn't have even thought about it. Even if he had a top-grade weapon, he wouldn't be able to harm the dragon's scale in the slightest. Putting away the dragon's scale, Lin Zhen looked at the people surrounding Fallen Star Lake. There were 4 ruler-level demon beasts here, as well as an angel of God. There were also the monarch races from the endless sea of stars. They brought those demons and ghosts. Although they had been doing nothing in the later stages of the battle, they also wanted to kill the Lin family at every moment. There were also people from the other 3 Holy Lands who wanted to destroy Fallen Star Lake. There were also some random people from the Primordial Realm. Lin Zhen knew some of them as he had a grudge with them in the past. There were also some that he did not know. There were tens of billions of enemies here, but when Lin Zhen's gaze swept over them, these people seemed to feel that he was looking at them. They didn't dare to look directly at Lin Zhen. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. Just the name Lin Zhen was enough to make people's souls tremble. What's more, Lin Zhen had just forced a perfect sovereign-level demonic beast to flee. What could these people possibly use to contend against him? However, no one dared to act rashly. No one dared to attack, and no one dared to run. They just stood there in a daze. Lin Zhen carried the lotus flower spear and slowly walked through the battlefield. For the past 1,000 years, you guys have been really impressive. The original intention of people who practice martial arts is to strengthen their bodies and live forever. It is also to protect themselves. However, there's a rule in martial arts, which is that you shouldn't implicate your family. Whether or not you have a grudge against me, you shouldn't seek revenge on my family. Since you're determined to cause trouble for my Lin family, you should have the courage to bear the consequences of failure. Are you ready? After he finished speaking, Lin Zhen pointed his lotus flower spear at the 4 sovereign-level demonic beasts. The few of you, do you want to live or die? If you want to die, I'll send you to your deaths first. If you don't want to die, you'd better listen to me obediently and stop anyone who tries to escape. Dragon, tiger, python, and bull. Although these 4 demonic beasts had yet to fully awaken their intelligence, they could still differentiate between the strong and the weak. In their eyes, the Wonder Dragon was the most powerful being. Yet, this person had forced it to flee. How would they dare to resist? Moreover, they could sense the aura of a beast on Linjin. It was also the aura of a king. It was the aura of a black hole beast. The law of the jungle was the law of the jungle. The strong preyed on the weak. They understood this the best. No one wanted to die. Beasts were the same. Even ants wanted to live. Thus, the 4 demonic beasts immediately chose to obey. They immediately joined Linjin's group without hesitation. After all, these people who were attacking Fallen Star Lake weren't their allies. The 4 sovereign-level beasts immediately spread out. According to Linjin's orders, they were prepared to intercept anyone who tried to escape. The 4 sovereign-level beasts' bodies rapidly expanded. Each of them was hundreds of kilometers long. Combined with their sovereign domains, they blocked off the surrounding space. The 10 billion army that was attacking Fallen Star Lake was concentrated in an area of 10,000 kilometers around Picking Stars Island. They were now surrounded. Linjin turned around and said to Sunflower Scar and the others, "Protect Picking Stars Island. Can you do it?" Steamed Bun finally got a chance to speak. "Big Brother Lin, don't worry. As long as a sovereign doesn't attack, I can protect Picking Stars Island by myself." After saying that, Steamed Bun's body shook and turned into a small planet, covering the entire star-picking island. A small planet covering an island gave Linjin plenty of space to fight. Steamed Bun's planet was a bit deformed. It was shaped like a pot lid. It was completely airtight. Linjin was stunned. Steamed Bun's sovereign ability was really special. He could even change the shape of a planet. Without any worries, Linjin was relieved. This time, he could do whatever he wanted. At this time, it was the subjugation army's turn to be on edge. As the only ruler, the Angel of God mustered up his courage and said to Linjin, "Linjin, as the saying goes, it's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. Revenge breeds revenge. If you let us all go, how about we write off everything that happened today? I promise I won't cause trouble for Fallen Star Lake again." Linjin laughed and shook his head. He firmly replied, "In your dreams." Angel of God's expression changed. "We have so many people here. You can't kill us all even if you want to. Even with the help of the 4 great beasts, most of us can still escape. Why do you have to kill us all? Aren't you afraid of revenge in the future?" Linjin approached with his lotus flower spear. "Stop talking nonsense. The best way is to eliminate you all. As for revenge, the sovereign is dead. Who would dare to come for revenge?" Seeing that he couldn't persuade, Angel of God turned hostile. "Everyone, Linjin doesn't want to let us go. Then there's no need to say anything. Everyone, do your best. If you want to go back alive, fight with your life on the line." These people saw that they had no choice but to be riled up by Angel of God. The spaceships all charged up and aimed their main cannons at Linjin. They couldn't surrender without firing a shot. In an instant, countless lights flashed in the sky. Facing Linjin alone, more than 1,000,000 spaceships wanted to fire. There were more than 2 billion enemies in the sky. Linjin held his lotus flower spear. He knew that after this battle, Fallen Star Lake would be completely safe in the entire primordial realm. Only by resolving his worries could Linjin move forward boldly and not be held back. So this time, he wouldn't be merciful. Do you want to go crazy one last time? Unfortunately, you won't have the chance. Chapter 1422. Linjin's combined dimensional strike had already reached a stage where he could use it as he pleased after much research and improvement. Right now, the area within 1,000 kilometers in front of him was Linjin's combined dimensional strike's range. Facing these people who wanted to destroy his home, Linjin didn't show any mercy. Attack. Annihilation. It wasn't an explosion, nor was it destruction. It was dimensional devouring. More than 2 billion people were directly within the range of Linjin's combined dimensional strike. With one attack, they were sent into a spatial crack. The whistling spatial turbulence instantly swallowed them up. The entire sky turned dark. Then, relying on the powerful spatial healing ability, it healed. However, not a single trace of the people who had once existed here could be seen. They had completely disappeared from this world. Not even a trace of them was left behind. The 10 billion army besieging Fallen Star Lake was instantly reduced by a quarter. Killing more than 2 billion people in one attack, Lin Zhen wasn't satisfied. He fiercely turned around and faced a densely populated area in the sky behind him. The combined dimensional strike was activated again. Waves after waves of killing, waves after waves of death. This time, close to 2 billion people were killed. After 2 moves, 4 billion people were killed. Although the cannons from the left and right of the sky bombarded over, these things didn't even have the qualifications to scratch Lin Zhen's itch. The cannons were like a spring breeze. Lin Zhen took advantage of the fact that the other side hadn't had time to disperse and teleported to the left side to continue the massacre. 1 billion people were gone. Teleporting to the right side again, 1 billion people were gone again. This kind of battlefield was simply terrifying. Because there was no process to the battle, there was no smoke like other battlefield. A spatial crack would devour a large group of people. Another spatial crack would devour another large group of people. The remaining people were less than 4 billion. Fortunately, they weren't gathered together. These people no longer had any thoughts of fighting Lin Zhen. With a boom, they were like wasps that had exploded and began to scatter in all directions. However, Lin Zhen had already made arrangements. The 4 great beasts had already blocked the sky in all directions. They had nowhere to go. The 4 great beasts had just submitted to their new boss and were worried that they wouldn't have a chance to show off. When they saw these people rushing over, they immediately shook their heads and wagged their tails in excitement and began a massacre. It was too easy for a Dominator-rank vicious beast to deal with these rookies. There was no need for him to use any moves. He could just open his mouth and devour the opponent. There was no chance for him to escape. The golden dragon opened its mouth and spewed out large mouthfuls of dragon flames. Each wave of dragon flames covered a distance of hundreds of kilometers, and each wave killed millions of people. The tiger wasn't any worse. With a roar, the people who came over were all dizzy and disoriented. It opened its mouth and swallowed at least 100,000 people in one gulp. Moreover, its speed was extremely fast as it swallowed them down with a ka-ka-ka-ka sound. A poisonous gas field formed around the python, and anyone who came near it died instantly. Its long tongue swept through the air and filled their stomachs. On the other hand, the barbarian bull's side was the most solid. It was a domain of iron walls, and no one could break through it. The bull opened its mouth, and the speed at which it ate people was not inferior at all. In less than 3 minutes, more than 2 billion people were swallowed into their stomach. Lin Zhen didn't stay idle at this time. He began to focus on killing. The first person he wanted to kill was the new king of the Emperor clan. Lin Zhen and the Emperor clan had a long history of grudges. He originally thought that the Emperor clan was completely dead, but he didn't expect that they would actually revive. This new king of the Emperor clan, Lin Zhen, didn't know his name, nor did he need to know his name. The other party drove a very advanced warship and was currently trying to pass through a gap between the dragons and tigers. In order to cover his passage, he used a lot of cannon fodder, sending them to their deaths from all directions, attracting the attention of the dragons and tigers, leaving a gap. Lin Zhen teleported directly to the top of the warship and exerted force with both feet. With a rumble, this warship was directly trampled to the bottom of Fallen Star Lake by Lin Zhen. The Emperor clan will completely end from today onwards. The long spear stabbed fiercely. There was no need to look at the person. With one stab, the warship exploded, and the Divine King-level experts inside were directly turned into ashes. The fish at the bottom of the lake swam over and swallowed their remains clean. With this Emperor Clan Divine King, Lin Zhen soared into the sky from the bottom of the lake. His spear just happened to pierce a Divine King who was passing by like an ant on a hot pan. This was a Divine King from the soul-locking platform, killed in one strike. Teleportation. Next, Freedom City's Divine King. Another teleportation. Next, Twin Trees Garden's Divine King. Lin Zhen's consecutive attacks completely killed off the Divine Kings of these three Holy Lands, who were also the Holy Lands guards. After killing the Divine Kings, Lin Zhen's final target was God's Angel. But Lin Zhen looked around and actually did not find any trace of God's Angel. This is really a little strange. Where could this guy have run to? Lin Zhen's Divine Will swept the entire battlefield, but did not find him. Steamed Bun, what's the situation on your side? Master, don't worry. No one can enter here. The sisters-in-law are very safe. Lin Zhen nodded. As long as God's Angel did not enter Picking Stars Island, it was fine. Moreover, it was useless for him to enter Picking Stars Island now. Sunflower Scar was enough to kill him. But if he was not here, where could he be? Lin Zhen stood in the center of the battlefield, watching the 4 demonic beasts clean up the remaining soldiers. The remaining 1 billion people could be said to have nowhere to go. They were devoured by the 4 demonic beasts and had no chance of escaping. Lin Zhen directly posted this video in the Dimensional Universe. He wanted to use this to announce his return and intimidate all those who had bad intentions. He believed that after this incident, no one would dare to have any ideas about this place. In less than 10 minutes, the battle was over. There was not a single enemy left on the battlefield. There was not even a single battleship. They had all been devoured by the demonic beast. The 4 demonic beasts looked at Lin Zhen excitedly. Their tails were even gently swaying as if they wanted to gain their master's approval. Lin Zhen had the 4 demonic beasts come over and look at them one by one. After that, he looked at the python. Just now, you kept releasing poisonous fog so that everyone who entered could not see clearly and died of poison, right? The python nodded repeatedly. Its poisonous fog was very powerful. Even Divine Will could not see through it. Anyone below ruler level would definitely die if they entered. Lin Zhen laughed. That's right. He walked over to the python's side and said, You used the poisonous fog as a cover and pretended to be dead before entering the python's stomach. Because the python does not know how to chew, you are still alive. That poisonous fog cannot harm a ruler, so you are here, right? There was no sound from within. Lin Zhen's expression turned cold. You really won't cry until you see the coffin. Fly into the sky right now and then defecate in the Starfall Lake. The python was stunned. It did not know what Lin Zhen meant. Chapter 1423. The python followed Lin Zhen's instructions and flew into the sky. However, its excretion didn't seem to have any effect. Lin Zhen simply came to its side and injected dimensional power. With a muffled sound, the angel of God fell from the sky. It was forcefully carried away by the python's excretion. It rolled a few times in the air, and then desperately tried to escape into the distance. At this point, how could Lin Zhen allow him to escape? He dashed forward, the lotus flower spear in his hand following closely behind. After a few consecutive spears, the angel of God couldn't block Lin Zhen's attacks and was stabbed to death on the spot. The god crystal appeared and began to rise into the sky. At this time, Sunflower Scar and the others also came out. The black bumpkin and the 4 great beasts followed behind Lin Zhen and watched the ruler god crystal rise into the sky. Lin Zhen took a deep breath and suddenly rose into the air. A powerful dimensional power enveloped the god crystal. Sunflower Scar was shocked behind him. Lin Zhen, what are you doing? Are you going against the laws of the universe? The ruler god crystal must return to the eternal mountain. If you forcefully keep it, not only will you not be able to keep it, you will also be bombarded by the heavenly tribulation. It wasn't that no one had done this in history. They forcefully collected the ruler god crystal in hopes of quickly creating an expert. However, no one had ever succeeded. The will of the universe was inviolable. Lin Zhen sneered. Heavenly tribulation. In order to kill me, the origin of the universe even issued a supreme mission, but I'm still alive and well. As for whether I can keep the divinity crystal, we'll have to try. Lin Zhen completely ignored Sunflower Scar's advice and forcefully opened his dimensional power. This was completely going against the will of the universe's origin. If it were anyone else, they definitely wouldn't have such courage. However, Lin Zhen had experienced too much. After passing the supreme mission, his existence was already recognized and allowed. At this moment, Lin Zhen was unscrupulous. It was also at this moment that Lin Zhen felt the universe's power in his body begin to awaken. Lin Zhen understood why this was the case. It was because he had broken through the knot in his heart and let go of all his worries. He could do whatever he wanted to do, and that was why he had such achievement. Within the Chaos Green Lotus, the dimensional energy of a new universe surged out. As long as Lin Zhen willed it, a new universe would be born. This powerful force also completely suppressed the ruler's divine crystal, which was trying to escape. Lin Zhen closed his hands and caught the divine crystal that was about to escape. Suppressing the urge to create a new universe in his body, Lin Zhen took the sovereign god crystal and returned to his family. This was a light attribute divine crystal. In Lin Zhen's hand, it emitted a soft and bright light. All of you are my family. I can't always be by your side. After all, I have to cultivate most of the time. I've already chosen this path, and all of you have to walk it with me. Going against the will of the universe's origin isn't a big deal. One of you must fuse with this divine crystal. The wives looked at Lin Zhen with excitement, not because of the sovereign god crystal, but because of Lin Zhen's words. Since their husband wasn't afraid of the will of the universe's origin, they wouldn't be either. As for who the sovereign god crystal should go to, none of them had any thoughts of fighting over it. They were all calm and quiet women who followed their husband's will. Lin Zhen thought about it. Sunflower Scar didn't need it, and the others could do it. However, it was best to give the light attribute divine crystal to Su Mingyue. After all, she cultivated the power of light. I'll give this to you. As for the others, I'll give them to you when I find suitable ones. Su Mingyue nodded and received it. Her face was filled with joy. She was already at the peak of the God King realm, and was likely to break through to the quasi-ruler realm. When that time came, she could fuse with it. When that time came, she would be a ruler. This was something she had never dared to think about before. Thank you, husband. Lin Zhen smiled and stretched his body. Ah, it's finally over. From now on, Fallen Star Lake will be free of worries. With the power of the new universe as his backing, Lin Zhen could easily obtain the sovereign god crystal. Once all of his wives became rulers, Lin Zhen would no longer have to worry about anything else. At this moment, Lin Ping and Lin An walked up to Lin Zhen with some fear. Father, those Lin family descendants. Lin Zhen's face turned cold. These people deliberately spread the news of my death, to take revenge for you not helping them commit crimes in the new territories. These people deserved to die. Although they are descendants of the Lin family, I have no feelings for them. I will announce in the dimensional universe that I will not give these descendants any protection. Let them fend for themselves. Lin Ping nodded. Father is right, but not all of them are evil people. There are some who are not bad. You can decide on the specifics. Those with good character and aptitude can come here to cultivate, but this kind of thing must never happen again. All evildoers must pay the price for their actions. Lin Ping and Lin An nodded and left happily. With Lin Zhen's return, everyone was relieved. Everyone was happy from the bottom of their hearts. Although the Fallen Star Lake had experienced this calamity and had lost a lot of people, every single person who remained was an elite among elite. 1,000 years of fierce battle had tested their loyalty and honed their abilities. Fallen Star Lake still had more than 100 disciples, and each of them was a god. Some of them were about to break through to the Divine King realm. This was very rare in the primordial realm. Mayor Lin's lover was also a disciple of Fallen Star Lake's Heaven class. His name was Chunshi. He was a handsome young man with outstanding potential. This time, he was also the leader of the disciples. He was a peak quasi-divine king. Lin Zhen did not interfere with his daughter's relationship. He only hoped that this Chunshi could continue to work hard and be a true match for Mayor Lin. After the battle at Picking Stars Island, the entire primordial realm quieted down. Many people were worried that Lin Zhen might take advantage of the aftermath of his victory to do something like subjugation. In fact, if Lin Zhen wanted to conquer now, no one would be able to stop him. However, Lin Zhen did not want to do so. Conquering was meaningless to him. What he needed was the ultimate strength of his own martial strength. That was true freedom. After staying with his family for a year, Lin Zhen also enjoyed a year of familial happiness. His father did not come out when Lin Zhen was fighting with Li Qin. Now, he could come out and pass his days peacefully. He also expressed to Lin Zhen that he would no longer pursue family prosperity. Now that they had so many daughters-in-law by their side, they were already very content. A year later, Lin Zhen presided over Mayor Lin's wedding. His daughter was officially married. After that, Lin Zhen requested his family not to delay their cultivation. He wanted everyone to reach the quasi-divine king realm as soon as possible. As long as they became quasi-divine kings, Lin Zhen would be responsible for finding divine king crystals for them. This period of time would not end in a short period of time. His wives also knew that there was no time to lose. They all began to cultivate intensely. As for Lin Zhen, he also chose to go into seclusion at this time. He was about to awaken the power of the universe. Once he succeeded, Lin Zhen's strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. Chapter 1424. The cultivation location Lin Zhen chose was the bottom of Fallen Star Lake. Fallen Star Lake was the largest ocean in the primordial realm. Its depth could be calculated in light years. Even if a star fell in, it wouldn't cause much of a ripple. This showed how deep the lake was. No living creatures could survive in the depths of the lake. The water pressure here was enough to cause life forms below the godly king level to explode. This was also the cultivation location Lin Zhen chose. It was quiet and undisturbed. Before he came, Lin Zhen had communicated with his family. No one would disturb Lin Zhen's cultivation. After entering Fallen Star Lake, he teleported directly to the bottom of the sea. Lin Zhen searched for the deepest part of the lake. Lin Zhen slowly sat down cross-legged and began a long period of seclusion. Lin Zhen now had the ability to open up a new universe. As long as he was willing, a new universe would be born. However, Lin Zhen didn't want to open up a new universe immediately. He felt that his strength still had room for improvement. Before that, he had to raise his strength to the peak. Lin Zhen still had a few points to improve his strength. First was his overlaying 9 seals technique. He had only completed the 7th level of the Wisdom Fist seal. There was also the 8th level of the Sun seal and the 9th level of the Aquarius seal. The 9th level of the Aquarius seal was something that most sovereigns couldn't do. However, Lin Zhen had to learn the 8th level of the Sun seal. Besides the overlaying 9 seals technique, there was also Lin Zhen's Soul Guard. After the 33rd level of the Sky Reaching platform, there was still the 34th level. After passing the 33rd level, Lin Zhen felt that his soul strength had reached the peak of the sovereign level. It was equivalent to a perfected sovereign. After all, the limit of the Sky Reaching platform was the perfected sovereign level. However, there was still the 34th level above the perfected sovereign level. Lin Zhen vaguely felt that it was better for him to comprehend the 34th level of the Sky-Reaching platform first. With Lin Zhen's current aptitude and comprehension, there was almost nothing in the world that was difficult to comprehend. However, the 34th level of the sky-reaching platform really stumped him. The 34th level of the sky-reaching platform had another name. It was called the universe in my heart. The content inside was actually a star chart of the entire universe. New territories, primordial realm, special star systems, forbidden lands of the universe. Galaxy, nebula, galaxy. Stars, planets, moons, dark stars, meteorite belts, large and small celestial bodies, dust. Innumerable. It was very simple to comprehend the sky-reaching platform. You just had to rely on your own memory and memorize the entire universe's starry sky layout. Lin Zhen wasn't afraid of anything, but this really scared him. His memory was very good, but how could he remember the entire universe? It might not be difficult to remember the planets in the solar system, but those who did not specialize in astronomy might not even know how many moons there were in the solar system. Even those who specialized in astronomy found it difficult to calculate how many meteorite belts there were in the solar system. Let alone the Milky Way? What about the entire primordial realm of the new territories? It would be easy for the dimensional universe to copy it, but this was obviously not allowed. This was to make a person rely on their own brain to completely memorize it. Lin Zhen was also very shocked because this was the first time he had seen a star chart of the entire universe. Even after so many years, Lin Zhen had never walked through a billionth of the universe. He really didn't know who had the ability to draw a star chart of the entire universe. It was obvious that this star chart was real. Lin Zhen's thoughts wandered in the star chart and went to the new territories. He even saw the solar system, his hometown, the azure blue earth, and the moon in the sky. It was extremely small in the entire universe, but it was Lin Zhen's home. But no matter how shocking it was, this mission had to be carried out. Lin Zhen couldn't start from his hometown. He wanted to start from the edge of the new territories universe. Lin Zhen thought that he had plenty of time. Under the time deceleration, one day was almost equivalent to 100,000 years. If he counted slowly, there would be a day when he could count it all. But just as he started calculating at the edge of the new territories, he encountered a big problem. The new territories were expanding. This star chart was like a real universe that was constantly expanding. This made it very difficult for Lin Zhen to solve. The new realm is actually growing. If that's the case, how are we supposed to count them? Lin Zhen finally decided to target the primordial realm after a long period of helplessness. After all, the primordial realm was no longer expanding. But in reality, Lin Zhen felt that he had underestimated the situation. This kind of thing shouldn't be done by humans. Memorizing the stars one by one was enough to make an ordinary person have a nervous breakdown. This was because such a huge amount of memories wasn't something an ordinary person's soul memory could withstand. Not only could humans not do it, but even gods couldn't. Fortunately, Lin Zhen's soul was strong enough and incomparable to others. It was just that this period of time was too long. It was so long that he couldn't see the end. Lin Zhen had to memorize at least 10,000 stars every day, big and small. But after 100 years, he realized that he was still circling in a small area. Lin Zhen focused his mind and eliminated distracting thoughts. He entered a long period of cultivation. Fortunately, he wasn't just counting stars out of boredom. At the same time, he was also cultivating the overlay battle technique and comprehending his own ruler battle technique. He specialized in studying the energy of the new universe and grasped the operation of the nomological laws. After getting used to such a life every day, Lin Zhen didn't feel that the days were too hard to pass. He couldn't even feel the passage of time. He had completely forgotten the existence of time. Grasping the starry sky of the multiverse had become his instinct after a long period of inertia. There were all kinds of strange ways to calculate the universe year, but many advanced civilizations also had the same calculation method. 3,600 years on Earth was equivalent to a universe year. Because this period of time was the rise and fall of the first civilization, it was recognized as a universe year. During Lin Zhen's cultivation process, many major events happened in the primordial realm. First of all, Su Mingyue was the first to enter the quasi-ruler realm in the first universe year. With the help of the ruler god crystal that Lin Zhen had given her, she successfully broke through and became Lin Zhen's second ruler wife after Sunflower Scar. With two rulers standing guard, Fallen Star Lake had no worries, and the primordial realm entered a period of peace. When this universe year was about to end, Fallen Star Lake welcomed a guest. It couldn't be called a guest. It could even be called a host. This person was Fallen Star Lake's fifth senior brother, Jean Nua. Jean Nua returned to Fallen Star Lake and was warmly welcomed by everyone. And at this time, Su Mingyue and the others discovered that fifth senior brother Jean Nua was also a ruler powerhouse. Wind-type ruler. No wonder he was always so carefree. Jean Nua returned with a worried expression. When he saw Lin Zhen's wives, he first greeted each other and then immediately asked about Lin Zhen's whereabouts. Sunflower Scar looked troubled, not knowing what to say. Chapter 1425. Everyone was stunned when they heard the news. This was especially so for Su Mingyue and the others. They had all cultivated in the Fallen Star Lake's holy land. Naturally, they knew what the Fallen Star Ruler meant. The Fallen Star Ruler was one of the only 3 people in the entire universe who had reached the level of a perfected ruler. The Myth Ruler, the Lone Star Ruler, and the Fallen Star Ruler. These 3 great rulers had always stood at the top of the universe, unshakable. However, such an iconic figure had actually fallen. This was simply unimaginable. Without the Fallen Star Ruler, would the Fallen Star Lake's holy land be in trouble again? Fifth senior brother, what happened? Su Mingyue asked. Jean Nua sighed. No one knows the details. However, Master has been in the Beast King prison for many years. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any power that can cause fatal harm to Master. Even if there's danger, there should be enough time to escape. However, a few days ago, he sent out a message saying that an evil beast had appeared in the Beast King prison. The 3 perfected rulers had gone to deal with it. However, they never returned. Until a year ago, as Jean Nua spoke, she took out something. All perfected rulers have great abilities. Before Master died, he passed through time and space and tossed this to me. It's a strange art that he had researched. Give it to Lin Zhen. Su Mingyue took the item from Jean Nua. She realized that it was a secret manual and a bell. Beast Taming Art. 9 Palaces Purple Gold Bell. Jean Nua explained to Su Mingyue, Master spent his life researching beast taming. He stayed in the Beast King prison for many years. His ultimate dream was to find a perfected ruler-level ferocious beast and subdue it for his own use. With a perfected ruler and a perfected ferocious beast, his strength would definitely increase greatly. However, the heavens did not fulfill his wish. In the end, he could not fulfill his dream. In the end, he did not tie this 9 Palaces purple gold bell to the 9 beasts' necks. After he died, the bell returned. This book is the essence of his life's work. He gave it to me. Unfortunately, I'm not talented and know nothing about this. Moreover, the cause of Master's death is still unclear. I have to investigate it. Hence, this thing can only be left to Lin Zhen. Su Mingyue hesitated for a moment. But Lin Zhen, sister-in-law, there's no need to say more. Lin Zhen's talent is something I've never seen before. If Lin Zhen has time, just tell him to come to the Beast King prison to find me. After saying that, Jean Nua left in a hurry. Clearly, she was in a hurry. Su Mingyue looked at Sunflower Scar. Sister Sunflower, about this? Sunflower Scar thought for a moment. I should tell my husband. After all, this is no small matter. I never would have thought that a consummate expert like the Fallen Star Ruler would actually fall. Just thinking about it is terrifying. Su Mingyue nodded. After becoming a ruler, she had learned many things. She knew that this was definitely not a simple matter. After handing over the secret manual and the purple gold bell to Sunflower Scar teleported away. A moment later, he arrived at the surface of the ocean where Lin Zhen was cultivating. Husband. After a few soft calls, Lin Zhen, who was still counting the stars at the bottom of the ocean, woke up with a start. With a splash, Lin Zhen rushed out of the ocean. Where did the flowers come from? Sunflower Scar rolled her eyes at Lin Zhen. She summoned water vapor and cleaned Lin Zhen's filthy body. Then, she explained the purpose of Jean Nua's visit in full detail. Lin Zhen immediately fell into deep thought. He had never met the fallen star ruler, but he could be considered his master in name. After all, Lin Zhen was the 6th senior apprentice brother of the fallen star Lake Holy Land. He had also once been the Holy Land's guard. In his heart, the fallen star ruler was still a powerful expert. He did not expect him to fall. If Jean Nua had asked him to go to the Beast King prison with her, Lin Zhen probably would not have gone at this time. He had to complete the final test of the heavenly platform and open the door to the new universe. However, this time was too long. He would have to stay here for a long time. Looking at the book and purple gold bell in Sunflower Scar's hands, Lin Zhen knew that this was a shackle his 5th senior apprentice brother had placed on him. If he accepted these 2 treasures, it would be equivalent to admitting his identity as the 6th senior apprentice brother of the fallen Star Lake. Because he had accepted his master's legacy, he would have to bear the responsibility of avenging his master. Lin Zhen smiled bitterly. Looks like senior apprentice brother is still a little worried about me. You're worried that I'll wash my hands of this matter. Don't you know that I've lived and learned in the fallen Star Lake for many years? Although I've never met Master, don't I know how to be grateful? He took the book and bell in Sunflower Scar's hands. I'll learn this secret manual. When I come out of seclusion, I'll definitely go to the Beast King prison to meet up with 5th senior apprentice brother and avenge Master. After Lin Zhen finished speaking, the clouds in the sky suddenly drifted, and hearty laughter came. Haha! I knew 6th junior apprentice brother was an upright person. Since you said so, I'm relieved. See you in the Beast King prison. A ray of light flew away. It was Jean Nua. Lin Zhen smiled as he looked at Jean Nua's departing figure. She might not know that her figure, which was hidden in the clouds, could not escape Lin Zhen's eye of illusion breaker at all. Lin Zhen's words were meant to reassure him. This was also what Lin Zhen had been thinking. However, he did not know how long it would take for him to come out of seclusion. After saying a few more words to Sunflower Scar, Lin Zhen hugged this cold girl and gave her a deep kiss. This special dominator left with a red face. Only then did Lin Zhen return to the fallen Star Lake. The days of counting stars were long and unreachable. After more than 3,000 years, Lin Zhen had only counted a small corner of the primordial realm. He did not know how long it would take to complete it. After such a long time, he would not have to do the same thing all the time. Counting stars all the time would make him dizzy. It was also good to read some books and adjust. This purple gold bell was a supreme grade support type equipment. Supreme grade equipment was very rare, second only to supreme equipment. Support type equipment was even rarer. The value of this purple gold bell was actually not inferior to supreme equipment. The 9 bells could be tied to the necks of 9 ferocious beasts for one's own use. Lin Zhen's heart skipped a beat. When the fallen Star Lake had calmed down, those ferocious beasts had already slipped back to the Beast King prison because he was not there to suppress them. If he went to the Beast King prison, he could consider taking in a few Dominator Realm beasts. They would also be a powerful auxiliary force in battle. After putting away the purple gold bell, he opened the secret book left behind by the fallen star ruler. The first few words attracted Lin Zhen's attention. The book introduced the methods of taming beasts. However, there was one particularly important point. The true king of beasts is best if he is a beast himself. This meant that those with beast bloodlines would have an easier time taming beasts. Lin Jun, who was originally just looking at it casually, opened his eyes slightly. He was a black hole beast. If he was a beast, wouldn't it be easier? Chapter 1426. Lin Jun began cultivating the beast taming art according to the secret manual of the fallen star ruler's inheritance. However, this period wasn't long. It was only half a year. Half a year was more than enough for Lin Jun, because half a year for him was equivalent to 50,000 years for others. Cultivating a secret manual for more than 50,000 years already proved the difficulty of this secret manual. But half a year later, Lin Jun still completely understood this secret manual and mastered it to the point of perfection. What Lin Jun lacked now was practice. Practice required Lin Jun to go to the Beast King prison personally and use the 9-palace purple gold bell in combination with the beast taming art to subdue the beast taming art. Lin Jun didn't have time to go to the Beast King prison now. His cultivation hadn't been completed yet. Accepting the fallen star ruler's inheritance was equivalent to accepting a responsibility. Lin Jun had to take revenge for the fallen star ruler. Although Jin Nuo went to the Beast King prison, the fallen star ruler had perished there. It wouldn't be easy for him to take revenge with his strength. Unknowingly, Lin Jun had become an influential force in the universe. In the long years that followed, Lin Jun spent his time among the stars. The primordial realm's starry sky, including the entire endless sea of stars, took Lin Jun 7 universe years. 1 universe year was 3,600 Earth years, and 7 universe years was 25,200 Earth years. 1 year for Lin Jun was equivalent to 10 years for others. In total, it was 520 billion years. This long period of time was almost equivalent to the history of a planet's development, and it started from prehistoric times. However, what was even more frightening was that this period of time wasn't the end. It was just a process for Lin Jun to count stars. Next, he had to count the new territory's starry sky, which was even more difficult to endure. The new territories were different from the primordial realm. Although the starry sky between the two was about the same size, the problem was that the new territories were constantly expanding, and new starry skies were constantly appearing. Lin Jun also thought of a solution during this period of time. That was to draw a boundary between the existing starry skies. He would count what was within the boundary first and ignore what was beyond it. This process took another 7 universe years. Within 7 universe years, Lin Jun had counted the number of galaxies within the boundaries of the new territories. As for the remaining galaxies, he drew another boundary. Another universe year had passed. Then, he drew the boundary again. In the process of drawing the boundary again and again, the number of remaining starry skies became fewer and fewer. By the 10th time, Lin Jun felt that he didn't need to draw lines anymore. As long as he scanned the area with his divine telekinesis, he would be able to see the tiny bit of space that the new territories had just expanded. By the time Lin Jun had finished counting the stars in the 17th universe year, he had finally finished counting all the stars in the universe. Lin Jun engraved this number in his mind. He also memorized every single galaxy and nebula in every single piece of space. This was Lin Jun's current strength. With the capacity of the human brain, he could remember the universe. This was also thanks to Lin Jun's mental strength. After counting stars for so many years, his mental strength skyrocketed and finally reached grand completion crystal formation realm. Crystal formation realm. Even dominators didn't reach grand completion crystal formation realm. But Lin Jun did it. When he reached grand completion crystal formation realm, the star map of the 34th level of the heavenly platform disappeared. Following the disappearance of this star, the heavenly platform shone brightly and a golden bridge appeared. Lin Jun's consciousness extended upwards. It was like a person walking on this golden bridge and seeing the road to heaven. At the end of the golden bridge was a golden throne. Lin Jun came before the throne and wanted to try sitting on it. However, he couldn't sit on it. He didn't know why either. A voice came through the air. Lin Jun, you're here. It's you. Lin Jun revealed a smile. This voice made him feel incomparably close. Cultivating until now, this voice had guided him countless times to overcome difficulties before he had today's achievement. If it wasn't for this person, Lin Jun might have turned into dust by now. That's right, it's me. I've been waiting for you here for a long time. Who are you? Where are you? Where is this place? Can you show yourself? Lin Jun had a lot of questions to ask him. This is the chaos intersection point, and I'm right in front of you. It's just that you can't see me yet. Lin Jun couldn't help but feel a little anxious when he heard, "Why can't I see you?" It's very simple. Because it's only your consciousness that has reached the chaos intersection point. Comprehending the star map of the 34th level of the heavenly platform only proves that your soul strength has reached this realm. However, your main body can't come here yet. These words made Lin Jun sober up abruptly. He only saw the things at the end of the heavenly platform through his soul, but his main body was still lacking in strength. What is the chaos intersection point? Who are you? The chaos intersection is the intersection of the worlds of the universe. It is the passageway between worlds. As for me, when your main body arrives, you will naturally understand. Lin Jun said, I will definitely work hard to come here as soon as possible and see the real you. Don't speak too early. In this universe, your consciousness isn't the first person to come here. Lin Jun was stunned. He never thought that there would be someone in this universe who could do what he did. Lin Jun knew very well how difficult it was to reach the 34th level of the heavenly platform. If it weren't for his Nirvana 9 revolutions, there would be no hope of counting the star map of the universe. However, someone could do this. It was simply unimaginable. However, Lin Jun, I still believe that you will come here one day. Of course, it will be very difficult. The voice changed the topic. Lin Jun, go. The universe you are in is not stable. There are many people here who are stronger than you, and forget it. That's your path. You have to complete it yourself. Lin Jun wanted to say something, but his consciousness left the heavenly platform uncontrollably. Goodbye. I hope you can come back. The light in front of him blurred, and Lin Jun's consciousness returned in the next moment. His body was still at the bottom of the fallen star lake. The pitch-black lake water in front of him stunned his mind for a long time. It had been too long. More than a dozen universe years. In the real world, more than 60,000 years had passed. From the time Lin Jun cultivated to the pseudo-dominator level, he spent less than 10,000 years. But this comprehension alone took him over 60,000 years. Although the lake water outside was still undulating, Lin Jun knew that the world outside had already changed, and the people there had changed. He didn't know how his family was and how his family was doing after 60,000 years. However, at this time, Lin Jun couldn't immediately go out. Chapter 14:27. As long as Lin Jun wanted to, he could create a new universe at any time. But if he didn't want to, this new universe was still within his control. But today, it was a little out of control. From the Chaos Lotus, a turbulent chaos air current erupted, instantly enveloping Lin Jun. Accompanied by this air wave, Lin Jun's mind was clear. His body began to disintegrate, turning into light. Nirvana 9th transformation completed. Too much time had passed, making Lin Jun think that he had completed the 9th transformation, but he forgot that he was still one step away from the 9th transformation, and that was to do as he pleased. After returning to Fallen Star Lake, after fighting and killing to his heart's content and completing the last level of the sky-reaching platform, Lin Jun finally completed the 9th transformation. Nirvana 9th transformation. It's finally over. Lin Jun closed his eyes and disappeared. The next moment, Lin Jun opened his eyes again. But he was no longer at the bottom of Fallen Star Lake, but back at Fantasy Realm Town. This was the place where he started his nirvana. Where he came from, where he returned. Before nirvana, he was at the peak of a pseudo-ruler. After nirvana, he was still at the peak of a pseudo-ruler. However, the strength of today was completely different from the strength of that day. Lin Zhen's divine power was originally 100 million. However, this journey of nirvanic rebirth had allowed him to accumulate a lot of power. Every lifetime of cultivation was a form of accumulation. Now, his divine power had already reached 145 million. Such divine power was enough to surpass those supremacy rulers, and even most special rulers. My body is no longer completely human. Lin Zhen lowered his head and looked at his body and arms. He realized that he had changed back into the black hole beast's body. The black scales on his body shone brightly. After being tempered by chaos air for so many years, the toughness of his muscles and bones had reached an unimaginable level. Unless it was a supreme equipment, it would be difficult to harm Lin Zhen's body. This was similar to the time when 41 sovereigns had joined forces to attack Lin Zhen. Although it had caused his blood to boil, it was no longer possible to deal any fatal damage to Lin Zhen. He raised his hand and the primal chaos lotus spear appeared in his hand. Now Lin Zhen only had 3 treasures: the primal chaos lotus spear, the 10,000 mountains domain, and the 9 palace purple gold bell. His mastery of the dimensional combined strike had reached perfection. During these 60,000 years, Lin Zhen also did 2 things. One was mastering the offensive method of the Sun Seal, and the other was skillfully using the dimensional power in close combat. The attacks he casually unleashed were all Sovereign's battle skills that contained dimensional energy and baleful aura of death. Aside from the fact that he hadn't fused with a Sovereign's God Crystal, Lin Zhen's strength was already above most Sovereigns. Just as Lin Zhen was hesitating whether or not he should return to the Fallen Star Lake to take a look, a beeping sound came from the dimensional universe within his body. "Master!" A little girl in a white dress with a bow on her head appeared on Lin Zhen's shoulder. Then, she directly plunged into Lin Zhen's arms. Sob, sob, sob. "It's been tens of thousands of years. Master, don't you miss Chris?" Lin Zhen was instantly overjoyed. "Chris, you've recovered too?" "Yes. Before Master completed his nirvana, I couldn't recover. Now that Master has completed his nirvana, I naturally recovered too. It's really been a long time." Lin Zhen was also a little emotional. Especially during the process of counting the stars at the end of his 9th life, more than 60,000 years had passed. If it was anyone else, they would have probably forgotten who they were. It was rare that Chris could return to his side. Lin Zhen didn't have any feelings for the artificial life from before. They were all mechanical. Lin Zhen only treated Chris as family. Chris rubbed against Lin Zhen's body for a while before returning to his shoulder. "Master, are you hesitating about something?" "Yes, I'm thinking if I should return to the Fallen Star Lake." "Hee. Master has been in seclusion for too long. You don't even know how your hometown is like. Let Chris introduce it to you." "How do you know?" "Master, I just can't come out, but it doesn't mean I don't exist. I know too much about the outside world." Lin Zhen smiled. "You're amazing. Okay, tell me." Chris made a comfortable posture. "After Master went into seclusion, the matriarchs didn't disturb you. They are also focused on cultivation. Matriarch Sunflower Scar entered the Beast King prison again. She said that she wanted to break through to the Sovereign Realm. I don't know how she is now." Lin Zhen nodded. Sunflower Scar was originally very talented. It was very likely that she wanted to break through to the Sovereign Realm. And Matriarch Feng Qingluan. She cultivated in Fantasy Town for 20,000 years and obtained the Fire Element Sovereign Realm God Crystal. "What?" Lin Zhen was shocked. Little Phoenix's talent wasn't inferior, especially in the fire element. She combined the abilities of the Fire Phoenix and Fire Qilin. Her fire element talent was even higher than his. But he didn't expect that little phoenix could obtain the fire element sovereign realm god crystal. It seemed that she had been stimulated by Sunflower's scar. Instead of waiting at home for Linjin's help, she had chosen to go out on her own. She had become a sovereign realm god crystal. Her strength was far above Su Mingyue. She was close to Sunflower Scar. What about the others? Ning Qingxian? Snow White and Bai Su sisters? And Ning? How did they choose? Ning and Su Mingyue are still in Fallen Star Lake. Ning Qingxian and the 3 Bai sisters are not far from Master. They are in Fantasy Town. They also came out? Lin Jin was shocked. He didn't expect that his matriarchs weren't ordinary people. They had chosen to come to Fantasy Town and train on their own. Master, it's been 60,000 years. The matriarchs have already cultivated to pseudo-sovereign realm. You can't keep them waiting. Moreover, they came out together and can take care of each other. Master, you don't have to worry too much. Lin Jin nodded. His matriarchs were all outstanding women. They were all talented. Of course, they wouldn't be willing to live a dull life. It seems that I don't have to return to Fallen Star Lake for the time being. Lin Jin knew what he had to do. After the 9 revolutions nirvana, he wanted to continue moving forward. Returning to Fallen Star Lake wouldn't be of any help. Moreover, his matriarchs were either in Fantasy Town or Beast King Prison. Only Ning and Su Mingyue remained at home to protect their home. Helping his matriarchs obtain the Sovereign Realm God Crystal here, and then go to Beast King Prison, was the path Lin Jin should take. Did anything else happen? After 5th senior apprentice brother Jean Noir entered Beast King Prison, he disappeared without a trace. I received a message from your master, Lonely Star Fishing Old Man. He told you to find a time to contact him. However, you were in seclusion and didn't receive it. I received it, but I couldn't notify you. After Lin Jin entered seclusion, he immediately completed the 9 revolutions nirvana. He naturally couldn't receive any messages from before. He didn't expect that Crazy would receive it. My master, does this count as me passing the 3rd trial? Chapter 1428. Lin Jin asked Chris to connect to Lone Star Fishing Old Man's dimensional universe. The call was quickly connected, and Lone Star Fishing Old Man appeared on the screen. Disciple, you're finally willing to answer Master. It's been more than 60,000 years. Where have you been? Lone Star Fishing Old Man spoke to Lin Jin with concern. Lin Jin smiled. Thank you for your concern, Master. I've been cultivating in seclusion. Sigh, it's been hard on you. I heard that 41 juggernauts joined forces to expel you, but at that time, I was in the depths of the Beast King prison and couldn't come back. You should have heard that I joined forces with the Myth Juggernaut and the Fallen Star Juggernaut to enter the Beast King prison. In the end, the Fallen Star Juggernaut perished there. I've heard a little, but I don't know the details. It's a long story. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's face was solemn as he began to explain the Beast King prison to Lin Jin. When the universe was born, there were 81 Juggernaut crystals. Corresponding to the Juggernaut crystals, there were also 81 Beast Kings. Each Beast King was a Juggernaut beast. There were 72 elemental beasts and 9 special beasts. These beasts occupied the Beast King prison and would not leave most of the time. But there were exceptions. After the universe was born, it formed the universe's origin, which was the so-called universe's will. The universe's will absorbed dark matter and formed chaos. The chaos aura was stable for 100 billion years. Every 100 billion years, the chaos would become restless. Every time the chaos aura became restless, all living things would be affected. They would become anxious, irritable, crazy, and crazy. Those who had fully awakened their spiritual intelligence were better off, but those who had yet to fully awaken their spiritual intelligence would be affected by the chaotic aura and do many crazy things. It was also at this time that the Beast King prison's Beast Kings would take the initiative to leave the Beast King prison and go to the human world. And the calamity of the world would begin at this time. Since the birth of the universe, it had experienced chaos or restlessness twice. Each time, it was a great calamity for the human world. The first time was fine. The Beast King prison's beasts were not particularly strong, and they survived. The second time was very difficult. It was at that time that the myth Juggernaut turned the tide and defeated two perfect Juggernaut Beast Kings. But the myth Juggernaut was also injured at that time and had not recovered. The third 100 billion years was not far away. But compared to the third calamity, the first and second calamities were child's play. In the third calamity, amongst all the sovereign-level vicious beasts, there would definitely be one that would be able to withstand a massive amount of chaotic energy and become a peerless vicious beast. At that time, even perfected juggernauts would be no match for them. The fall of the mortal realm would be a foregone conclusion. Myth Dominator, Lone Star Fisherman, and Fallen Star Dominator went deep into the Beast King prison. Their goal was to eliminate as many vicious beasts as possible that showed signs of breaking through, and to delay their progress in becoming vicious beasts. This was a temporary solution, but it was also very effective. However, during this process, an accident occurred. The few of them were besieged by ferocious beasts. The Myth Dominator and Lone Star Fisherman fled one after another. The Fallen Star Dominator had fallen. This was the process of their journey to the Beast King prison. After each sovereign fused with a divine crystal, they would head to the Beast King prison to train. In other words, they had to eliminate a vicious beast that corresponded to them. Lone Star Fisherman's expression was grave. Lin Zhen, the Beast King prison, is in a critical situation. There are less than 1,000 years left until the final 100 billion years. Within 1,000 years, we have to eliminate all the vicious beasts in the Beast King prison. Only then can we survive this calamity. For the sake of the common people, you should hurry to the Beast King prison as soon as possible. After he finished speaking, he slowly let out a breath. In the past, my requirements for you were a bit harsh. In truth, with your ability, you have already completed your training. From today onwards, you are my official disciple. Master hopes that you can surpass your master. Lin Zhen nodded silently. Then I will thank Master in advance. You have grown up and you have many secrets. Master won't ask you. Just hurry over as soon as possible. But you must remember one thing. If you encounter the Myth Dominator, try to avoid him as much as possible. His temperament is unpredictable, and his thoughts are unpredictable. This time, the three of us joined forces. If he hadn't fled first, causing the Fallen Star Dominator and I to be unable to defeat the vicious beasts, Fallen Star wouldn't have fallen. Lin Zhen was stunned. Didn't the Myth Dominator stop the vicious beasts from leaving seclusion and save the world? Silly boy, people change. Moreover, in the face of life and death, who can you guarantee will be willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of righteousness? Lin Zhen nodded. You're right. All right, I'm in the Beast King prison. It's not convenient for me to keep talking with you. Just remember to hurry over as soon as possible. There are many sovereigns here. After saying this, Lone Star Fisherman closed the connection to the dimensional universe. Lin Zhen let out a long sigh. The topic of conversation with his master was a bit heavy. At this time, Crazy said, Master, your master is right. The Beast King prison is very dangerous. According to what I know, the purpose of the 81 sovereigns is to prevent the 81 Beast Kings from leaving seclusion. That's why there are sovereign god crystals. Do the Beast Kings have god crystals? The Beast Kings don't. There are crystal cores in their heads. If you take out a Beast King crystal core and absorb it, you can increase your sovereign power. Then will there be one less Beast King if you kill one? No. When the older generation of Beast Kings die, a new Beast King will be born from the herd. As long as the Beast King prison exists, there will always be 81 Beast Kings. Lin Zhen understood some things. No wonder the Beast King prison was the top of the 3 forbidden zones in the universe. It was because there were 81 Beast Kings here. Moreover, when a beast king died, a new beast king would appear. This cycle was very difficult to deal with. Moreover, the day when the aura of chaos became restless was getting closer. When the time came, a beast king would be able to withstand the aura and break through the limits of beast kings, reaching an unimaginable realm. Crazy continued, Master, during this time, many new sovereigns have appeared. Do you want to take a look at the list of sovereigns? I'll take a look. Lin Jun didn't care. Soon, the list appeared in the dimensional universe. There were 81 names listed on it. Sunflower Scar was in the 5th place. Feng Qingluan was in the top 15. Su Mingwei was in the top 50. Hei Tu and Steamed Bun were also in the top 50. First place, Mythical Sovereign, Human. Second place, Lone Star Fisherman, Heavenly Rock. Third place, after looking at it for a while, Lin Jun silently put away the list. He had some ideas in his mind, but they hadn't been confirmed yet. He needed more information. Chapter 1429. In front of him were desolate streets, broken houses, and pseudo-sovereigns hiding in the streets and alleys. Lin Jun had left this place for so long. 60,000 years, 9 reincarnations, and today, he had finally returned. Everything in Fantasy Realm Town was the same. Lin Jun could still see the Dominator's heavenly monument. Of the top 30 people on the heavenly monument, 3 of them were Lin Jun's wives. The second was Snow White, the third was Bai Su, and the fourth was Ning Qinxian. The 3 of them had each occupied a cultivation spot with 80 times the usual value. They were currently cultivating. However, the first place wasn't theirs. The first place of the heavenly monument was a person called Dragon Marshal. In Lin Jun's era, there wasn't much of a difference between first and second place. However, Dragon Marshal's points were 5 times higher than Snow White's. Lin Jun couldn't help but be speechless. One had to know that Snow White's talent was the number 1 of the 2 great races. Yet, she had lost. As expected, the universe was vast and filled with all sorts of strange things. Too many things had happened in the years he hadn't been here. Lin Jun walked along the streets and passed by the center of the town. The direction he had come from was the east of the town. The 3 wives were in the west, south, and north of the town. He had to pass through the center of the town. The center of the town was where the town was located. It was also where Dragon Marshal resided. There were 100 times cultivation spots there. Back then, it was Lin Jun's home. As he passed by, Lin Jun saw that there were many people cultivating near the center of the town. These people weren't hiding like when Lin Jun was here. Instead, they openly cultivated, as if they had nothing to fear. Lin Jun felt it was strange. How come the competition in Fantasy Realm Town wasn't fierce anymore? Even ordinary pseudo-dominators dared to be so brazen. Just as he was feeling strange, someone in front of the town saw Lin Jun. After Nirvana 9 reincarnations, although Lin Jun still showed his true appearance to people, many people still couldn't recognize Lin Jun. They had seen too many people, and Lin Jun had not appeared for more than 60,000 years. Moreover, the appearance of the human race was similar to that of many races, so they could not think of Lin Jun at all. Even if they thought about it, many people believed that Lin Jun was already a sovereign expert, so it was impossible for him to appear in Fantasy Town. Thus, when this person saw Lin Jun, he thought that he was an ordinary pseudo-dominator. When the man saw Lin Jun walking over, he immediately waved his hand in greeting. Hey, kid over there, are you new here? Although Lin Jun was 70,000 years old, he was still very young among pseudo-dominators. However, when Lin Jun saw this pseudo-dominator with millions of divine power refer to him as such, he felt strangely amused. What's the matter? Lin Jun asked. The pseudo-dominator sized up Lin Jun. He couldn't see through Lin Jun's depths, so he probed, Are you new here? You can say so. That's good. You should know that in the martial world, there are rules everywhere. Don't think that you can reach the heavens in one step just by coming to Fantasy Realm Town. That's simply unrealistic. Here, you have to endure. How do I endure? Accumulate experience. Only by slowly accumulating experience will you be able to obtain better cultivation points and improve your ranking. If you can enter the top 30, you will be considered as the first group. Lin Fan smiled. Wait until the experts who are ranked before you leave. Only then will you be able to obtain better cultivation points. The pseudo-dominator spoke with the tone of a senior, but even so, you still don't have the qualifications to obtain a god crystal. Here, you have to follow the boss. Only when the boss leaves will you be able to take advantage of the situation. If you can't even follow the boss, then you don't even have the qualifications to stand here. As he spoke, he pointed to a dark corner in the distance. There were some people cultivating in the wilderness. Look over there. Those are all arrogant rookies who think they're invincible under the heavens. They refuse to follow the boss, so they don't even have the double cultivation points. They can only sleep on the street. Do you want to be like them? Lin Jin shook his head. Of course I don't. That's right. You're new here, so I'll tell you clearly. This is the territory of Fantasy Realm Town's #1 expert, Big Brother Dragon Marshal. If you want to stand here, you have to follow Big Brother Dragon Marshal. Look around the town. Are there any people? These are all Big Brother Dragon Marshal's subordinates, including me. Lin Jin looked around. So many subordinates. Can Big Brother take care of them all? You don't have to worry about that. Unless you're willing to follow a woman. The second, third, and fourth are all women, but that's useless. They're not Big Brother Dragon Marshal's match, and he doesn't take in subordinates. If you want to follow someone after the fifth, what future do you have? Is this Dragon Marshal that strong? Lin Jin asked. You really are new here. You haven't even heard of Big Brother Dragon Marshal's fame. Let me tell you, in the last 100,000 years, Dragon Marshal has been hailed as the universe's #1 genius. Tell me, is he strong or not? Universe's #1. Lin Jin froze for a moment, then found it funny. He, Lin Jin, was only 70,000 years old, and someone dared to say that he was #1 in 100,000 years. You still don't believe me? You're probably cultivating on some remote planet, so you don't know much about the outside world. Do you know the person ranked second? Lin Jin. You're saying that Dragon Marshal is #1, and Lin Jin is #2? That's right. It's not just me who said it, but the quasi-rulers of Fantasy Town. Some of them experienced Lin Jin's era, and they believe that Dragon Marshal's strength is above Lin Jin's before he became a ruler. Lin Jin nodded indifferently. That's right. Then did Big Brother Dragon Marshal get a god crystal? If he wanted it, he would have gotten it long ago. Big Brother Dragon Marshal wants a special god crystal. He doesn't care about other god crystals. As long as he's here, he can suppress those women. Some people say that those women are Lin Jin's women. Doesn't that prove that Big Brother Dragon Marshal is stronger than Lin Jin? Lin Jin's expression turned cold. If it were a few years ago, he would have investigated the situation before making a decision. But now, he didn't want to do that. He hadn't appeared for so many years, but these messy people actually jumped out and bullied his wives. Lin Jin sneered and said to the quasi-ruler, Then go back and tell your Big Brother Dragon Marshal that since he doesn't want ordinary god crystals, he won't get any god crystals. What did you say? You don't want to live anymore? Lin Jin glared. Open your dog eyes and see who I am. The quasi-ruler finally realized that something was wrong. After looking carefully, he panicked. You're Lin. Before he finished speaking, Lin Jin sent out a mental attack, exploding his head on the spot. Lin Jin also needed points. If he wanted to enter the top 30 of the Divine Monument, then this person would be his first source of points. This quasi-ruler didn't even have a chance to react before he was sent out of Fantasy Town. If Lin Jin really wanted to kill him, he could definitely kill him when he got out. However, there was no need for that. Chapter 1430. In the eyes of some pseudo-dominators, Lin Jin's actions were a sign of fear. Using a scale to block a Dominator-rank golden holy dragon, wasn't this like a mantis trying to stop a chariot? They were already prepared to cheer for Martial Dragon and the golden holy dragon. They were about to witness the end of an era and the rise of a new one. Lin Zhen's era belonged to the past. It was now Martial Dragon's era. This included Martial Dragon. Although he was surprised by Lin Zhen's actions, he didn't believe that Lin Zhen had the ability to reverse the situation. It wasn't that he didn't know about Lin Zhen's past, but Martial Dragon believed that Lin Zhen definitely had an expert helping him from behind. This was because he believed in Lin Zhen's rationality more. His experiences were practically impossible to replicate. Lin Zhen definitely couldn't be stronger than him. Behind Lin Zhen's several major events, there should have been a perfect dominator helping him. For example, the Lonely Star Fishing Elder or the Fallen Star Dominator. However, what happened next left all of them dumbfounded. Lin Zhen held the scale with both hands and directly raised it. The ferocious charging holy dragon seemed to have seen something terrifying. Its long dragon body hastily retracted. Its 4 claws fiercely clawed at the ground, creating 4 deep trenches. It was like a python that had suddenly braked. Its body was curled up into a ball. With such great effort it almost collided with the scale. Lin Zhen's lips curled up. It seems like a beast like you still knows what's in my hands. Today, I'll properly teach you a lesson. Raising the scale in his hands, Lin Zhen fiercely smashed it at the golden holy dragon. You actually dare to be rude to me. I've even pried off this fellow's scale. Why would I care about a broken loach like you? Today, I'll let you know that this horse king has 3 eyes. The golden holy dragon was so frightened by Lin Zhen's fierce beating that it used its 2 claws to cover its head and lay there shivering. Others didn't know what that scale was, but as a golden holy dragon from Beast King prison, it was very clear. That was the scale of the mystical dragon, and the mystical dragon was the ancestor of the entire universe's dragon race. Dragons like him had no ability to resist the mystical dragon. Not only was the mystical dragon their ancestor, it was also a perfected demonic beast. This Lin Zhen was actually able to pull off the strange dragon's scales. It was no match for him at all. Furthermore, the strength of the other party's dragon scales also proved this point. It was far from being a match for the other party. Lin Zhen smashed the golden holy dragon for a while, beating it black and blue. Finally, he stopped. He raised his hand and took out the 9-palace purple gold bell. Lin Zhen took off the first bell and hung it around the golden holy dragon's neck. If I accept you, are you willing? The golden holy dragon nodded repeatedly, expressing its agreement. Good. From today onwards, you will follow me. Lin Zhen scanned the gold holy dragon's mind with his mental power and discovered that there was a mental restraint in its mind. It should be under the dragon martial arts. The bindings were rather strange. There were some doors that were not easy to break, but it was useless against Lin Zhen. The heaven-span platform's 60,000 years of experience made Lin Zhen's mental power grow to the perfected crystal formation realm. Dragon Martial's bit of mental power was insignificant. A mental attack rushed out and directly broke it. On the opposite side, Dragon Martial cried out and hugged his head with both hands, feeling incomparably painful. Only when Lin Zhen beat up the golden holy dragon did Dragon Martial feel how laughable his actions just now were. The other party was clearly not on the same level as him at all. He actually stubbornly thought that Lin Zhen's previous results were exaggerated. No wonder the other party did not give him face at all. Because there was no need to give face at all. The disparity between both parties was too great. This point could be seen from the other party directly breaking his mental soul lock. Lin Zhen put the purple gold bell on the golden holy dragon. As long as this holy dragon did not die, it would not betray him. Furthermore, there was no need to worry about the control being broken. Lin Zhen walked in front of Dragon Martial at this time. The golden holy dragon also circled around him. Its eyes looking at Dragon Martial were filled with hatred. It clearly remembered that it was controlled by Dragon Marshal. Of course, it did not have a good impression of him. Dragon Marshal saw the killing intent in Lin Zhen's eyes. Dragon Marshal was afraid. He originally thought that they were on the same level and that he was even stronger than Lin Zhen. Now, it seemed that he was a joke. At this time, Dragon Marshal realized that the hero he had always believed in was fearless. But now, it was useless. He was also afraid of death. You. My teacher is Jade Buddha, esteemed master, Lin Zhen. You can't do anything to me. I don't know who Jade Buddha, esteemed master is, and I don't need to know. Dragon Marshal, from the moment you started collecting points for my wife, your fate was already sealed. Lin Zhen raised his hand and was about to attack Dragon Marshal. Dragon Marshal let out a strange cry. Seeing that negotiations were not going to work, he wanted to make a final gamble. He put his hands together, and in a golden light, his body seemed to be made of metal, shining brightly. Snow White said to Lin Zhen from behind, "Husband, this is his invincible Vajra body. We can't do anything to it. It's just a small trick." Lin Zhen waved his hand, and more than 140 million divine power surged out and slammed into Dragon Marshal. There was no need to understand his martial art. One move was enough to defeat 10. Under such a huge impact of divine power, Dragon Marshal was directly eliminated. Lin Zhen also went from being in the 300s on the Divine Monument to first place. Lin Zhen did not care about the rankings. He took the initiative to leave Fantasy Town and went outside. Dragon Marshal was fleeing in panic. Lin Zhen laughed coldly. He raised his hand and a bolt of chaos lightning shot out. Dragon Marshal was hit as expected. His body fell, and a black aura enveloped his entire body. That was Lin Zhen's innate baleful death aura. The Radiant Dominator almost died from it, and Dragon Marshal was even worse. "Ah! My teacher will enroll me." Before he could finish, he was killed by the death aura along with his divine infant. A peerless genius of a generation was turned into ashes just like that. Not only did a martial artist need to know how to cultivate, they also needed to have talent. They also needed to know when to advance and when to retreat. Martial Dragon had bullied a few women to protect his own position. Martial Dragon's personality was problematic, so it was not an injustice for him to die at Lin Zhen's hands. Lin Zhen did not care about killing Dragon Marshal. He had killed so many dominators, not to mention a mere pseudo-dominator. Although this pseudo-dominator was very strong and had a great background, at this stage, there were very few things that could make Lin Zhen wary. Even a perfect dominator was the same. After settling all this, Lin Zhen returned to Fantasy Town. The madams were not worried about Lin Zhen at all. In their eyes, Lin Zhen was already omnipotent. Facing a group of pseudo-dominators who were somewhat fearful, Lin Zhen calmly announced, "From now on, after the Eternal Mountain descends, all of you in the top 30 will leave immediately. This is because the future Dominator's God crystals will belong to my madams. No one else will have a share." His words were extremely domineering, but no one dared to object. Instead, they felt that it was natural.